If you like the story, you can support the author on Patreon. Link is in the description.
Chapter 21, Determining the Jonin Instructors. In a secluded residence within Konoha village. Lady Mito, I'm back. Uzumaki Kushina skipped into the courtyard. Hearing her voice, Uzumaki Mito emerged from the house. She was the wife of Senju Hashirama and the first Nine-Tails Jinchuriki. How was your first day of school? Uzumaki Mito asked warmly. Pretty good. Kushina said, then pouted. Except for a few boys who were really annoying. Did they bully you? Mito's gaze sharpened. I said I wanted to become Hokage, and they made fun of me. Kushina waved her small fists. If Natsuki hadn't stepped in, I definitely would have beaten them up. Who's Natsuki? Mito asked, watching her granddaughter's fiercely adorable expression. A really good classmate. Kushina began chattering endlessly. He's strong, good-looking, and he cooks amazing food. It sounds like you've made a good friend. Mito smiled and made a mental note of the name. A new week began. Natsuki took a day off and accompanied Yakushi Nono to Konoha Hospital. The hospital had cleared out a large classroom specifically for the medical training program's exam. Natsuki stopped at the door. He wasn't a student of the program, there was no need for him to go inside. Nono, relax. With your abilities, there won't be any problems. He reached out and patted her head encouragingly. Nono said softly. I'll do my best. She turned and walked into the classroom. Natsuki didn't wait around idly. He headed straight for Tsunade's office. After knocking and receiving permission, he entered. You didn't go to class today? Tsunade looked up, mildly surprised. I took the day off. Natsuki explained. I came to watch Nono's exam. You don't need to worry about her. Tsunade laughed. Her performance will definitely surprise you. Ever since Yakushi Nono had joined the medical training program, her progress had been extraordinary. Tsunade had already decided to take her as a personal student after graduation. Lady Tsunade. Natsuki nodded, then shifted topics. There's a matter I'd like to ask for your help with. What is it? Tsunade leaned forward slightly. Natsuki explained how Shimura Danzo had cut off funding to the Konoha orphanage. That actually happened. Tsunade made no effort to hide her disgust. That old snake Danzo is truly out of control. She clenched her fists. Her sharp expression, combined with the Jonin flak jacket she wore, gave her an intensely heroic look. Although Natsuki preferred the more relaxed and generous version of her from the original timeline, she possessed a different kind of beauty right now. Teacher is far too lenient with him. Tsunade snorted coldly. I'll speak with teacher and have him restore the orphanage's funding. Thank you, Lady Tsunade. Natsuki bowed slightly. No need to thank me. Tsunade shook her head. This is fundamentally teacher's oversight. You're probably the only person who'd dare say that to his face. Still, compared to her future self, she was remarkably restrained right now. The director and I are planning to open an izakaya to help support the orphanage. Natsuki handed her an invitation. I hope you can attend if you have time. Who did you hire as chef? Tsunade's interest was piqued. I'll be the chef. Natsuki replied. Tsunade blinked. She had never tasted Natsuki's cooking. Her first instinct was skepticism. But she kept that to herself. I'll definitely be there. Tsunade agreed. After all, the invitation clearly stated that her expenses for the evening would be covered. In other words, free food and drinks. To be honest, her pockets were perpetually empty. It couldn't be helped. Her greatest hobby in life was gambling. But she lost every single time, earning her the infamous title of the legendary sucker. Thank you for honoring us with your presence, Lady Tsunade. A smile crossed Natsuki's face. His previous life's major had been journalism. He understood the celebrity effect perfectly. Inviting Tsunade was essentially leveraging her fame to promote the izakaya. Especially since he was targeting the high-end market. Time moved quickly into the afternoon. The medical training program's exam transitioned from theory to practical. Natsuki scanned the room and realized Nono faced stiff competition. More than half the students wore Konoha forehead protectors. They were already official ninjas. Compared to Nono, they had a significant advantage. The exam begins now. The chief examiner was none other than Tsunade herself. After all, she was in charge of the entire medical training program. The practical exam required transplanting an organ into a fish. In less than half an hour, Yakushi Nono caused a sensation. She had already completed the surgery. How is that possible? She's only 7 years old, faster than us genin. What kind of talent is this? The classroom erupted into murmurs. Quiet. Tsunade spoke firmly. The rest of you, continue your exam. Then she turned to Nono. You may leave. Rankings will be announced tomorrow. The corners of Tsunade's mouth curved upward. She was extremely satisfied. Thank you, Lady Tsunade. Nono packed her things and exited the classroom. She walked over to Natsuki, looked up at him, and waited. Truly amazing. Natsuki pinched her cheek affectionately. A gentle smile spread across Nono's face. The next day arrived. The medical training program announced its rankings. Yakushi Nono had taken first place. In the Hokage's office. Nono's talent as a medical ninja is truly outstanding, only slightly inferior to yours. Sarutobi Hiruzen examined the rankings and chuckled. The emergence of an exceptional medical ninja would have an immeasurable impact on Konoha. As Hokage, he was naturally pleased. Tsunade didn't deny it. Then she brought up the matter Natsuki had asked her to address. I will not allow Danzo to interfere with the Konoha orphanage's affairs again. Sarutobi Hiruzen's tone grew serious. He's overstepping. Teacher, you should rein him in more. Tsunade spoke bluntly. Danzo knows his limits. Sarutobi Hiruzen coughed lightly. I'll keep an eye on him. You needn't worry. Tsunade said nothing more. After Nono graduates, will you serve as her Jonin instructor? Sarutobi Hiruzen changed the subject. I can. Tsunade considered for a moment, then agreed. The ninja world placed great importance on the master-student bond. She needed a disciple as well. Have Orochimaru been awake as Jonin instructor? Tsunade paused, then added, and make Natsuki his teammate. It seems you're quite satisfied with Natsuki. Sarutobi Hiruzen understood his student well. For Tsunade to want Natsuki as Nawaka's teammate meant she had already fully recognized him. I discussed this with Orochimaru previously. He said he needs to observe for a while longer. Sarutobi Hiruzen continued. Jiraiya returns next week. The three of you can discuss this matter thoroughly. Who will be Jiraiya's student? Tsunade immediately caught on. I plan to have him serve as Minato's Jonin instructor. Sarutobi Hiruzen replied. I see. Tsunade's knowledge of Namikaze Minato came from Natsuki and Nono. She knew he was a promising genius. Next week? That's perfect timing. Natsuki's izakaya will be opening. I can bring them all there. Chapter 22, The Gathering of the Konoha Sunin. As April arrived in Konoha village, the temperature rose considerably. On a sunny Saturday, the izakaya jointly opened by Natsuki and Mayu officially launched. Although it was technically a partnership, Mayu handled all the day-to-day operations. Natsuki's situation was unique. He still had classes and training to attend to. Fortunately, barring any surprises, the premium tier he'd designed would become the izakaya's main pillar. Countless marketing cases from his previous life had proven one thing: as long as your reputation was strong enough, the money would flow endlessly. And his culinary skills were the real deal. Congratulations, host! You have unlocked Zeph Template Ability 2, Head Chef Drop Kick. Natsuki glanced at the notification, then heard Nawaka's voice. He immediately dismissed the system panel and looked toward the entrance. His eyebrows rose slightly. He had expected Nawaka to arrive with Tsunade. But the person standing beside him wasn't Tsunade at all. It was a young man. Shoulder-length dark hair. Pale skin. Purple markings around golden, slit-pupilled eyes. A cold, sinister aura. With all those features combined, even though this was Natsuki's first time seeing him in person, he immediately knew who it was. Orochimaru. Student of Sarutobi Hiruzen. Teammate of Tsunade and Jiraiya. One of the future legendary Sunin. In the original timeline, Nawaka's death had driven him to pursue immortality, setting him on the path of a mad scientist. Eventually, Sarutobi Hiruzen had discovered his experiments. Orochimaru became a missing nin, and later collaborated with Tsunagaku to orchestrate the Konoha crush. But right now, he hadn't turned evil yet. He looked gloomy, yes, but he was still a normal ninja. Natsuki. Noeka said excitedly. Let me introduce you. This is my teacher, Orochimaru. Teacher? Natsuki was mildly surprised, but it made sense. After all, Orochimaru and Tsunade were teammates who had grown up together. Even if Orochimaru wasn't officially Noeka's instructor, he would naturally guide him like a student. Lord Orochimaru. Natsuki greeted him respectfully. Orochimaru nodded expressionlessly, saying nothing. Please, come in. Natsuki gestured for them to follow. Orochimaru and Noeki entered the izakaya. Noeka-senpai, where's your sister? Natsuki led them toward the luxurious private room he'd prepared in advance. She asked me to let Orochimaru-sensei know. She's with Kushina, they'll be here shortly. Noeki explained. I see. Natsuki nodded and pushed open the door. Yakushi Nono instinctively stood up. Nono, good evening. Noeka greeted her with a smile. You all can chat. I'll go wait for Lady Tsunade at the entrance. Natsuki said, then headed back toward the front of the izakaya. He didn't have to wait long before he spotted Tsunade. But she wasn't alone with Uzumaki Kushina. Namikaze Minato and Jiraiya were with them as well. A gathering of the future legendary Sunin? This was Natsuki's first time seeing Jiraiya in person. His features were even more distinctive than Orochimaru's, a mane of wild white hair and a forehead protector engraved with the kanji for oil. Lady Tsunade. Natsuki stepped forward to greet them. Lord Jiraiya. You know me? Jiraiya asked, mildly puzzled. I've heard many tales of Lord Jiraiya's exploits. Natsuki replied. I want tender chicken tonight. Tsunade smiled. Natsuki, you'd better not disappoint me. You're really the one cooking. Jiraiya's interest sharpened. Then you'd better give it 120%. As a veteran foodie, I've eaten my way across the entire ninja world. At this point in his life, he had already become a contractor of Mount Myaboku. For the Great Toad Sage's prophecy, he had traveled the ninja world while completing missions. Saying he'd eaten his way across the continent wasn't an exaggeration. Natsuki will definitely satisfy you. Uzumaki Kushina declared with absolute confidence. Wait for me in the private room. The food will be out soon. Natsuki said as he led them inside. They soon entered the private room. After a round of pleasantries, Natsuki headed to the kitchen. Namikaze Minato and Yakushi Nono exchanged nervous glances. Jiraiya, Tsunade, and Orochimaru all present in one room. To them, these were legendary figures. Minato. Jiraiya spoke first. Do you know why I brought you along? Minato shook his head. He had been about to eat dinner when Jiraiya had suddenly appeared in front of him. Then he'd been dragged to this izakaya without explanation. He'd met Tsunade and Kushina on the way. Teacher says your talent is exceptional. You could become my student. Jiraiya didn't mince words. Minato's eyes went wide. Shock flooded his face. Become Jiraiya's student? What had he done to deserve that? But shock quickly gave way to excitement. If he became Jiraiya's disciple, his future would be limitless. Tsunade already knew, so she wasn't surprised. Orochimaru remained calm as well. He had vaguely guessed the reason the moment he saw Minato. But whether you actually become my student depends on your performance. Jiraiya smiled. I'll train you for a while. If you don't meet the standard, don't blame me. I understand. Minato responded immediately. For a commoner genius like him, this was a life-changing opportunity. Whether he could seize it remained to be seen. But he would give it everything he had. No, the same applies to you. Tsunade spoke up suddenly. Starting tomorrow, I'll be teaching you personally. Yakushi Nono froze. Then what about Natsuki? Noeki asked instinctively. Whose student do you want Natsuki to be? Tsunade asked teasingly. Me. Noeki scratched his head. I hope he becomes my teammate. What a pity. Tsunade shook her head, her tone regretful. It's fine if he isn't. Noeki felt a twinge of disappointment but didn't push further. Your sister is messing with you. Jiraiya exposed her immediately. Natsuki excels in Kenjutsu. The most suitable teacher for him is Orochimaru. Noeki's gaze snapped to Tsunade. Don't you know? The more beautiful a woman is, the more she lies. Tsunade blinked innocently, grinning. Damn it. Noeki gritted his teeth. Noeki, you should learn from your teacher before you get played as an adult. Jiraiya laughed loudly and clapped him on the shoulder. Orochimaru chuckled as well, though not as openly as Jiraiya and Tsunade. The private room filled with a cheerful atmosphere. The group chatted while they waited. After some time, the door opened. Mayu walked in carrying dishes. She set down the first plate. This is the appetizer, Kairashizashi. Natsuki had obtained the Emi Yashiro template. In his previous life, there had been an anime called Today's Menu for the Emi Ya family. He planned to recreate several dishes from it. Time passed steadily. The dining table soon overflowed with food. Assorted hot pot. Bamboo shoot gratin. Crispy fried chicken. Salmon baked in foil with butter. And of course Tsunade's favorite tender chicken. Smells incredible. Jiraiya inhaled deeply, anticipation written across his face. Tsunade, meanwhile, wasted no time. She grabbed her chopsticks and snatched a piece of chicken. She popped it into her mouth, chewed a few times and her eyes widened. This is the most delicious chicken I've ever had. Tsunade looked at Natsuki appraisingly. Orochimaru glanced around the table, then took a bite of the fried egg. His eyebrow rose. Satisfaction flickered in his expression. Natsuki's culinary skills were indeed better than expected. From that perspective alone, taking him as a student wouldn't be a loss. Chapter 23, Orochimaru's Praise. The only regret tonight is that this sake doesn't match the food. Tsunade set down her chopsticks and shook her head. This is already the best sake in the village. Jiraiya reminded her. It's not that the sake isn't good enough, it's that the food is too good. Next time you leave the village, bring some quality sake back. Orochimaru said casually. No problem. Jiraiya grinned. When I find something worth drinking, we'll gather again. My lords. Natsuki spoke up. I prepared a camera. Since this is such a rare occasion, how about a group photo? You certainly thought ahead. Tsunade looked mildly impressed. I'm definitely hanging this photo in my room. Naoki said happily. Uzumaki Kushina, Yakushi Nono and Namikaze Minato naturally agreed as well. Natsuki found Mayu and asked her to take the picture. You all stand in front. Tsunade directed. Jiraiya, Orochimaru and I will be in the second row. Hearing this, Naoki, Natsuki, Kushina, Nono, and Minato arranged themselves in a line. Mayu looked at them, feeling emotional. This group could definitely be called the present and future of Konoha village, the cream of two generations. When Natsuki had suggested buying a camera, it was to take promotional photos for the izakaya. Now, the significance of this image clearly went far beyond advertising. After the photo was taken, the gathering came to an end. Natsuki. Orochimaru spoke calmly. Meet me at the first training ground at 9 AM tomorrow. Without waiting for a reply, he turned and left. No hesitation. Natsuki blinked, then quickly understood. Did I just become Orochimaru's student? Fortunately, at this point in time, Orochimaru hadn't turned evil yet. Being his disciple wasn't a bad thing. Still a shame it wasn't Tsunade, though. But it wasn't impossible to have multiple teachers. In the original story, Uzumaki Naruto had two, Hatake Kakashi and Jiraiya. Natsuki, we're officially teammates now. I look forward to working with you. A cheerful smile spread across Naoki's face. Likewise. Natsuki nodded. We'll be heading out. See you next time. Jiraiya said, then called Minato and departed together. Tsunade, Naoki, and Kushina didn't linger either. They soon parted ways with Natsuki and Nono. Director. Natsuki turned to Mayu. I have a promotional plan ready. Find someone to execute it tomorrow. A plan? Mayu looked surprised. Weren't we just using the group photo for promotion? One method isn't enough. Natsuki shook his head and began explaining marketing strategies from his previous life. Flyer distribution. Advertisement postings. Grand opening discounts. Membership programs. Loyalty points. Fortunately, with this impressive group photo, building buzz wouldn't be difficult. Once his reputation grew, he would come in on Saturdays and Sundays to cook for reserved guests. But he wouldn't accept more than 4 reservations per day, 2 for lunch, 2 for dinner. Scarcity creates value. You came up with all of this? Mayu was stunned. She had never even heard of many of these methods. Promotion in the ninja world was still very traditional, nothing like his previous life, where marketing had become an art form. Just brainstorming. Natsuki blinked innocently. Mayu was speechless. Standing next to Natsuki, she felt like the child. The next day arrived. Natsuki left the izakaya's affairs entirely to Mayu. He and Yakushi Nono began an entirely new phase, learning ninjutsu from the legendary Sunin. Natsuki arrived alone at Konoha's first training ground. Natsuki. Nawaki, who had been practicing water release, immediately stopped and waved. Continue your training. Orochimaru glanced at him. Nawaki quickly returned to his exercises. I heard from teacher that your kenjutsu is impressive and that you've created 2 techniques. Orochimaru looked at Natsuki. 3 techniques, actually. Natsuki corrected. Attack me. Orochimaru's eyes narrowed. Yes, Orochimaru-sensei. Natsuki drew the sword of the Thunder God. With his current strength, he couldn't possibly hurt Orochimaru. There was no need to hold back. One sword style, Lion Strike. Natsuki gripped the blade and slashed downward with full force. The lightning-charged edge descended from above, aiming to cleave Orochimaru in 2. Orochimaru simply shifted his body and the strike missed entirely. One sword style, 36-pound Phoenix. Natsuki twisted his wrist. The sword of the Thunder God became a blur of afterimages. From within the blur, a flying slash rocketed toward Orochimaru. Orochimaru's eyebrow rose. This technique was more threatening than the last. But he merely stepped to the left, and the attack sailed past harmlessly. One sword style, Iai Lion's Song. Natsuki raised his blade. He transformed into a beam of light and vanished. Fast. Orochimaru's eyes widened slightly. He immediately opened his mouth, and a sword extended outward. Clang! Natsuki reappeared. His sword of the Thunder God was blocked by the blade in Orochimaru's mouth, unable to advance even an inch. Natsuki recognized it instantly, the Kusanagi sword. Its greatest feature was the ability to extend and retract, reaching lengths of over 100 meters. You're very good. Orochimaru praised. When Sarutobi Hiruzen had mentioned that Natsuki created his own kenjutsu, Orochimaru had been privately dismissive. How powerful could a technique created by a 7-year-old possibly be? But now, his opinion had changed completely. The 3 techniques Natsuki had demonstrated, especially the latter 2, had already reached B-rank standard. Orochimaru stepped back and withdrew the Kusanagi sword into his mouth. The sight was somewhat unsettling to watch. With your talent, I suggest you study every existing kenjutsu style. Master them thoroughly. Then attempt to create even more. Orochimaru considered for a moment before speaking. Yes, Orochimaru-sensei. Natsuki nodded. That suggestion aligned perfectly with his plans. He had a system, after all. I'll teach you Konoha-style kenjutsu first. Orochimaru decided. Konoha-style kenjutsu? Natsuki immediately thought of the couple Gekko Heiate and Uzuki Yujeo. They were famous precisely for that style. Although Natsuki's talent in ninjutsu was lacking, in kenjutsu, thanks to Zoro's inherited mastery, learning came naturally. April passed in the blink of an eye. Time advanced into June. Congratulations, host! You have unlocked Zeph Template Ability 3, Head Chef Dead Weight. After 2 months of building momentum, Natsuki's izakaya had become famous throughout Konoha. His clientele consisted exclusively of the wealthy and powerful. His name had spread among nobles and merchants alike. Reservations were fully booked for 6 months. He had also won over 30 ninjas with his cooking fully integrating the Zeph template. On Monday, Natsuki approached Ishida Yu. You want to challenge the upperclassmen? Surprise flashed across Ishida Yu's face. Chapter 24, I want to fight 3. I want to fight more geniuses. Natsuki stated his reasoning. Minato has already lost to me, so I've set my sights on the upperclassmen. This kid is bold. Ishida Yu couldn't help but hold his breath. The current Natsuki was obviously different from before. But Ishida Yu understood why. After all, Natsuki had already become Orochimaru's student. A person's personality and approach naturally shifted based on their circumstances. Currently, Natsuki and Namikaze Minato only attended theory classes at the Ninja Academy. Their practical combat instructors were now Orochimaru and Jiraiya. Who do you want to challenge? Ishida Yu snapped back to focus. 3rd years Akimichi Choza, Nara Shikaku, and Yamanaka Inoichi. Natsuki answered without hesitation. More than half of his stated reason was a lie. His true goal was unlocking ability 4 of the Uzumaki Naruto template. Among the 7 geniuses Minato had mentioned, only Akimichi Choza, Nara Shikaku, and Yamanaka Inoichi could be considered soft targets. Noeki, Uchiha Mikoto, Hyuga Hayashi, and Hyuga Hisashi all came from major ninja clans. The Sharingan and Byakugan had the potential to upset expectations. There was a real chance things could go wrong. But Akimichi Choza, Nara Shikaku, and Yamanaka Inoichi? Natsuki was confident he could defeat them easily. First, he knew their Inoshikacho combination techniques inside and out. Second, they were still young. Dominate the 2nd and 3rd years first. Of course, Ishida Yu had guessed correctly about one thing. Natsuki was now Orochimaru's student. There was no need to hide anymore. If he wanted to reveal his character template abilities, the best approach was to disguise himself as a once-in-a-generation genius. If anyone asked, self-created ninjutsu. Alright. I'll speak with teacher Ikuchi from class 3A later. Ishida Yu smiled. I doubt he'll refuse. Natsuki was Orochimaru's student now. His future was limitless. The teachers at the Ninja Academy were generally chunin. Even with all the courage in the world, they wouldn't dare offend Orochimaru or his disciple. Ishida Yu acted quickly. After chatting with Natsuki, he headed upstairs to another teacher's office. Teacher Ikuchi. Ishida Yu approached a young man. Teacher Ishida Yu? It's rare for you to seek me out. Ikuchi looked surprised. What can I do for you? It's like this. Ishida Yu explained the situation. As expected of a genius favored by Lord Orochimaru. He's already aiming higher. Ikuchi sighed after hearing the request. At the same time, envy crept in. For one class to produce 3 exceptional geniuses was simply unbelievable. Although Jiraiya, Orochimaru, and Tsunade hadn't officially taken them as disciples yet, their every move drew attention. The fact that they were personally training Namikaze Minato, Natsuki, and Yakushi Nono had already spread throughout Konoha. Rumor had it that Shimura Danzo had thrown a massive fit, ultimately leaving behind only 4 words, I'm so mad. What do you think? Ishida Yu asked with a smile. How about an inter-class exchange meet? Ikuchi considered for a moment. Ishida Yu blinked, then understood. Ikuchi was tacitly assuming Natsuki would defeat Akimichi Choza, Nara Shikaku, and Yamanaka Inoichi. But if word got out that way, Class 3A would lose all face. Better to hold a full exchange meet where everyone participated. With wins and losses on both sides, the results wouldn't sting as badly. Sure. Ishida Yu agreed immediately. With Namikaze Minato, Natsuki, and Yakushi Nono in his class, his performance record this year was guaranteed. He might even be named an outstanding instructor. Tomorrow afternoon, then. Ikuchi added. Ishida Yu nodded. After returning, he relayed the plan to Natsuki. Natsuki had no objections. As long as he achieved his goal, whether it was a direct challenge or an inter-class exchange meet made no difference. The next afternoon. Ninja Academy training grounds. The students of Class 2A and Class 3A sized each other up. Are those Natsuki and Namikaze Minato? Akimichi Choza looked at the dark-haired and blonde-haired boys across the field. Yeah, that's them. Yamanaka Inoichi nodded. Those 2 will probably be your opponents. In Class 3A, Nara Shikaku ranked first, Akimichi Choza second, and Inoichi third. But in terms of pure combat, Akimichi Choza was the strongest. The Inoshikacho formation was legendary throughout the ninja world. The 3 clans' secret techniques combined to devastating effect. But separated, the Akimichi clan's one-on-one capability was unmatched. The Yamanaka and Nara techniques focused primarily on control and harassment. This'll be tough. Nara Shikaku's side. Their teachers are Lord Orochimaru and Lord Jiraiya. It's fine, it's just an exchange meet. Yamanaka Inoichi offered comfort. Besides, losing to them isn't exactly shameful. 2 p.m. Ishida Yu and Ikuchi stepped onto the field and announced the official start of the exchange meet. Natsuki watched the matches unfold and suddenly realized a problem. According to the rules, he could only face one member of the Inoshikacho trio. But he planned to fight all 3. Natsuki fell into thought. I could issue a challenge directly. 17th match, Natsuki vs Akimichi Choza. Ishida Yu announced. Nara Shikaku and Yamanaka Inoichi had already fought. Shikaku had faced Namikaze Minato and lost easily. Inoichi had gone up against Onodera and ultimately won. The two fighters stepped onto the field. Akimichi Choza attacked first. He demonstrated exactly what a nimble heavyweight looked like, throwing a punch at startling speed. Head chef drop kick. Natsuki didn't give him a chance to close the distance. He leaped and lashed out with his right leg. Choza immediately redirected his punch to intercept. Fist met foot. His heavy frame stumbled back half a step. Surprise flickered across his face. Nara Shikaku and the others wore similar expressions. They remembered Natsuki was famous for kenjutsu not taijutsu. But Natsuki didn't give Choza time to recover. Using the momentum from the blocked punch, he vaulted into the air again. Head chef dead weight. He dropped like a hammer. The force stirred up a howling wind. Choza's expression shifted. Pressure descended from above. Partial multi-size technique. His right hand expanded rapidly, rising to meet Natsuki like a mountain. Boom! Air currents swept outward in all directions. Choza's face twisted with exertion. All his strength gathered in his massive palm, locking into a stalemate with Natsuki. Reinforcement magecraft. Natsuki's feet were instantly enhanced. Golden right foot. His body spun mid-air and he kicked toward Choza from an unexpected angle. Choza hadn't anticipated the shift at all. He let out a pained grunt and was sent tumbling across the ground. When did Natsuki's taijutsu get so strong? Namikaze Minato's expression turned serious. He had thought his own progress under Jiraiya was rapid, especially after defeating Nara Shikaku just now without revealing any new techniques. But Natsuki's improvement in taijutsu was beyond comprehension. Minato even felt that if he wasn't careful, Natsuki could defeat him with taijutsu alone. Winner, Natsuki. Ishida Yu announced with a beaming smile. Teacher Ishida Yu. Teacher Ikuchi. Natsuki bowed slightly. I have an unreasonable request. I've long admired the legendary Inoshikacho formation. I'd like to experience it firsthand. Ishida Yu and Ikuchi froze. What does that mean? Didn't you just defeat Akimichi Choza? But they quickly understood and shock spread across their faces. You want to fight all three? Chapter 25, Defeating Inoshikacho. Ishida Yu wanted to say something but stopped himself. His first reaction was that Natsuki was being far too arrogant. The Inoshikacho formation was legendary throughout the ninja world. Very few shinobi would willingly fight them 1 against 3. But Natsuki's status as Orochimaru's student made Ishida Yu hesitate. Ultimately, he left the decision to Ikuchi. Do you agree? Ikuchi considered for a moment, then simply asked Nara Shikaku and the others for their opinion. Akimichi Choza and Yamanaka Inoichi looked to Nara Shikaku. The 3 Inoshikacho clans had always been led by the Nara clan, famous for their exceptional intelligence. Their successive clan heads were destined to become Hokage advisors, providing counsel to the village leader. We agree. Nara Shikaku pondered briefly, then nodded. First, because Natsuki had issued the challenge publicly. It was within the rules. Moreover, it was 1 against 3. If they refused, they would look like cowards. Second, because they wouldn't necessarily lose. If they defeated Orochimaru's student, it would be a tremendous boost to their 3 clans' reputations. With his agreement, the students of both classes erupted in excitement. In all their years at the academy, this was the first time they'd witnessed a 1-on-3 battle. As expected of Natsuki, so confident. Confidence means nothing without strength. He's powerful, sure, but he's facing Inoshikacho. Hard to say who'll win. Humph, showing off like that. Let's see how he handles losing. That last comment came from Onodera. He was already bitter about losing to Yamanaka Inoichi. Natsuki's boldness only made him more resentful. Natsuki won't lose. Uzumaki Kushina clenched her fists fiercely. Quiet. Ishida Yu intervened. Don't interrupt the match. The students fell silent, focusing all their attention on the fighters. Namikaze Minato sat up straight, his expression solemn. Ever since losing to Natsuki, he had considered him a lifelong rival, a goal he had to surpass. Now that Natsuki was fighting 1 against 3, he would undoubtedly go all out. For Minato, this was an invaluable opportunity. Ninja battles were information battles. The more he understood about Natsuki, the more confident he would be in defeating him. It was currently June. The final exams would be held in July. That was when he would face Natsuki again. Begin. Ishida Yu announced loudly. He retreated to Ikuchi's side. Both teachers watched intently. They genuinely wanted to know who would win. If Natsuki emerged victorious, his reputation as a genius would spread throughout the Ninja Academy and beyond, to all of Konoha. Natsuki drew a wooden practice sword. Against Ino Shikacho, Taijutsu alone wouldn't be enough. Even against their childhood versions. Judging from the earlier matches, Akimichi Choza and the others had each mastered only one clan's secret technique. That was expected. They were geniuses, yes, but only 8 years old. Learning even one secret jutsu at this age was impressive. Natsuki's gaze fixed on Nara Shikaku. The Nara clan's shadow techniques were undoubtedly the greatest threat. Combined with their high intelligence, they could unexpectedly immobilize a target and secure victory. While he analyzed, Nara Shikaku and the others made the first move. They spread out and immediately hurled a barrage of kunao and shuriken. Gravity mitigation. Natsuki's body lightened. He charged toward Nara Shikaku, practice sword in hand. The incoming projectiles were deflected the moment they came close. Shikaku's expression shifted. He realized Natsuki's intention. He quickly glanced at Akimichi Choza. Choza immediately drew a wooden staff and swung it at Natsuki. Yamanaka Inoichi raised both hands, aiming at Natsuki. The moment Natsuki stopped moving, he would release the mind transfer jutsu and take over his body. One sword style, lion strike. Natsuki slashed at Akimichi Choza's staff. Under everyone's astonished gazes, the wooden weapon split cleanly in half. The delay bought Nara Shikaku enough time to retreat to a safe distance. Akimichi Choza roared. His arms expanded suddenly as he grabbed at Natsuki. Golden right foot. Natsuki kicked out. Choza absorbed the blow without stepping back. Mind transfer jutsu. Seeing his opportunity, Yamanaka Inoichi released a mental shockwave from his hands. The attack traveled at lightning speed. At such close range, it arrived almost instantly. Just when Inoichi and the others thought Natsuki would be hit, his body blurred and suddenly accelerated. Reinforcement Magecraft. Natsuki enhanced his legs while maintaining gravity mitigation, pushing his speed to its absolute peak. Namikaze Minato couldn't help but gasp. Natsuki's current speed was already too fast for him to react to. If he couldn't react, then Nara Shikaku and the others certainly couldn't either. With Yamanaka Inoichi's mind transfer jutsu missing its mark, he instantly fell into a rigid state. This was the technique's critical weakness. If the mental shockwave failed to connect, the user couldn't return to their own body for a short period. They would be completely immobilized. Natsuki knew this well, so he ignored Inoichi entirely. One sword style, Iai Lion's Song. His speed surged again. He vanished from his position. Almost simultaneously, Nara Shikaku let out a pained cry. The wooden sword struck his body like a whip, sending him flying backward. Natsuki reappeared. Akimichi Choza and Yamanaka Inoichi felt their hearts lurch. A chill ran through their entire bodies. 3 against 1 and we already lost someone? How is this possible? But they couldn't be blamed. The outcome is decided. Namikaze Minato murmured. With Nara Shikaku the tactical core eliminated first, the remaining 2 had almost no chance of winning. Natsuki didn't waste time. His chakra reserves couldn't sustain a prolonged battle. Fortunately, Orochimaru had noticed this weakness and had been training him specifically to improve it. Head chef drop kick. Natsuki spun and delivered a flying kick, sending Yamanaka Inoichi sprawling. The speed was so overwhelming that Akimichi Choza had no time to intervene. He gritted his teeth, activated the partial multi-size technique again, and swung his massive palm at Natsuki. But this Natsuki was completely different from before. In martial arts, speed determines victory. The principle held true in the ninja world as well. Natsuki sidestepped the palm, raised his wooden sword, and unleashed a rapid slash. One sword style, 36-pound phoenix. The flying strike hit Akimichi Choza like a cannonball, sending him tumbling. With that, all 3 members of Ino Shikacho lay on the ground. Dash! Class 2A erupted in cheers. Uzumaki Kushina jumped up in celebration. Namikaze Minato's feelings were complicated. On one hand, he was genuinely happy for Natsuki's victory over Ino Shikacho. On the other hand, he recognized just how troublesome Natsuki's terrifying strength would be to overcome. Class 3A was dead silent. Their 3 strongest fighters couldn't defeat Natsuki together. What else was there to say? Losing to him makes sense. Narashikaku sat up and sighed. He is Orochimaru's student, after all. Yamanaka Inoichi shook his head. Akimichi Choza said nothing, but he was convinced as well. Because Natsuki had used a wooden sword, none of them were seriously injured. But their entire bodies ached as if they'd been beaten 3 times in a single second. Chapter 26, Fushiguro Megami Template. Winner, Natsuki. Ishida Yu announced with undisguised excitement. After this battle, Natsuki's fame would undoubtedly skyrocket. As his teacher, Ishida Yu would benefit as well. He might even get a promotion and a raise, reach the pinnacle of his career. Thank you for the match. Natsuki sheathed his wooden sword and left the field. That was so cool. Uzumaki Kushina rushed over, beaming. Namikaze Minato opened his mouth to speak, then paused, feeling something strange. What's going on? Before, when Natsuki and Yakushi Nono were together, Minato had felt like a third wheel. Why did he feel the same way now with Uzumaki Kushina? Something's off here. You're up next. Do your best. Natsuki smiled. He and Minato had already fought. Only Kushina remained. Don't worry, I can knock them down with one punch. Kushina said with absolute confidence. She wasn't exaggerating. Beyond ceiling techniques, her taijutsu was genuinely impressive. In the original timeline, the reason she earned the nickname Red Hot Habanero was because she single-handedly beat up every boy who had mocked her. Fighting multiple opponents at once meant her taijutsu was definitely exceptional among her peers. You have awakened the Fushiguro Megami Template. Natsuki, who had been about to respond, froze. A character template from Jujutsu Kaisen this time? What had triggered it? The exchange meet? Fighting 1 against 3? Narashikaku's shadow techniques? Natsuki suppressed his racing thoughts and examined his newly acquired template. Name, Fushiguro Megami. Era, Kyoto Sister School Goodwill Event. World, Jujutsu Kaisen. Rank, B rank. Ability 1, Shadow Space unlocked. Effect, hide ninja tools and other items within one's own shadow. Weight is still borne by the user. Ability 2, Shadow Assassin locked. Effect, conceal oneself within a shadow for ambush attacks. Unlock condition, defeat the strong as the weak. Assassinate 9 Chunin and 1 Takubutsu Jonin using covered methods. Ability 3, 10 Shadows technique locked. Effect, use hand shadows to summon corresponding summoning beasts. Summoned creatures gain certain enhancements. Unlock condition, tame 10 different summoning beasts. After reading the description, Natsuki had only one thought. This Fushiguro Megami really does seem like a ninja from the Nara clan. In Jujutsu Kaisen, Megami's family was indeed similar, highly skilled in shadow manipulation. Natsuki glanced at Narashikaku. He had most likely awakened this template because he'd defeated Shikaku. The system's triggers for character templates were truly bizarre. Natsuki studied his new template while watching the ongoing matches. Ability 1 couldn't directly increase his combat power, but it was extremely practical. As ninjas, they all carried pouches containing tools and supplies. But a pouch could only hold so much, and it was conspicuous. Hiding items in a shadow was different. It was unexpected. Moreover, theoretically, as long as Natsuki could bear the weight, his shadow space had no upper limit. Ability 2 was equally useful. Its compatibility with shinobi combat was perfect. In reality, the vast majority of ninjas didn't fight head-on like Uzumaki Naruto. They specialized in covert operations and assassinations. Shadow Assassin hiding within one's own shadow could deliver devastating surprise attacks. And while the stated effect was for ambushes, it could also be used defensively to evade attacks. Unless the enemy thought to target the shadow itself. The problem was the unlock condition. Natsuki was still a Ninja Academy student. Encountering that many enemy shinobi would be difficult. Even if he did, killing a Takubutsu Jonin wouldn't be easy with his current strength. Chunin alone? He was confident. Fortunately, the requirement specified assassination, meaning he could use indirect methods. Natsuki stroked his chin. He would have to ask Orochimaru for help. According to Konoha's regulations, Academy students couldn't accept missions. Even genin couldn't take missions alone. Ability 3 was the 10 Shadows technique. In Jujutsu Kaisen, it was one of the inherited techniques of the Zenin clan, one of the big three sorcerer families. But obviously, the version he'd obtained had been localized by the system. Its power had been scaled down. That made sense. This was a B-rank template from the Goodwill event era. The next time he obtained a Fushiguro Megami template, he might unlock all 10 Shikigami including Mahoraga or even the domain expansion, Chimera Shadow Garden. The unlock condition for ability 3 was taming 10 summoning beasts. This wasn't really a condition so much as a prerequisite. Without 10 summons, the technique couldn't function anyway. When it came to summoning beasts in the ninja world, most people thought of the toads of Mount Miyaboku, the slugs of Shikotsu Forest, and the snakes of Ryokai Cave. These 3 locations were known as the Great Sage regions. The summoning beasts there were so powerful they could even exchange blows with tailed beasts. But aside from those legendary creatures, most other summons played supportive roles. Their combat capabilities weren't particularly impressive. The bad news, the 3 Great Sage regions had extremely high requirements for contractors. Only 3 people in the entire ninja world qualified. The good news, those 3 contractors were Orochimaru, Jiraiya, and Tsunade. Collecting 10 summoning beasts wouldn't happen overnight. He would have to take it slowly. What Natsuki wanted most were naturally the summons from the Great Sage regions. But there were only 3 of those. He still needed to choose the remaining 7. They didn't all need to be combat-oriented. Supportive summons had their own value. What Natsuki was most curious about, however, was the enhancement the 10 Shadows technique provided. That would give his summons a distinct advantage in battle. In this era, the outcome of summoning beast clashes still mattered greatly. For example, in the upcoming Second Shinobi World War, there would be a legendary battle of summons. The creatures of Orochimaru, Jiraiya, and Tsunade against Hanzo of a Megakure's salamander. That battle would earn them the title of the legendary Sunin. Natsuki considered his options. The 3 summons easiest to obtain right now were crows, ninja cats, and ninja hounds. All 3 appeared frequently in the original story. Crows and ninja cats were commonly associated with the Uchiha clan but not exclusively. Yamashiro Aoba, for instance, also summoned crows. As for ninja hounds, Hitaki Kakashi used them most famously. He had 8 of them. There were 2 ways to acquire summoning beasts: find an established clan of summons, or locate wild ones. But wild summoning beasts were extremely rare. After all, they could speak, possessed intelligence, and knew how to avoid danger. How did I do? Uzumaki Kushina's face suddenly appeared in front of him. Very impressive. Natsuki praised immediately. You knocked down your opponent in 3 punches. That's stronger than most. Kushina nodded, thoroughly satisfied. Soon, the exchange meet between the 2 classes came to an end. After school, Natsuki headed to Orochimaru's residence. Chapter 27, The Ninja Cat Clan. Teacher. Natsuki walked into Orochimaru's study. Although the current Orochimaru hadn't yet pursued the jutsu of immortality, he already harbored the ambition of learning every technique in the ninja world. When he wasn't out on missions, he usually stayed in his study, researching various ninjutsu and secret arts. I defeated seniors Choza, Inoichi, and Shikaku today. Natsuki got straight to the point. Orochimaru nodded slightly. He understood Natsuki's strength well. In terms of kenjutsu alone, the boy could already be considered Takebutsu Jonin level. The only problem was his lack of stamina. But defeating 3 third-year students was still trivially easy. Nothing to be surprised about. Senior Shikaku's shadow techniques are very interesting. Natsuki continued. Teacher, I have 2 ideas for shadow-based jutsu. He was laying the groundwork for his self-created Shadow Space and Shadow Assassin. Both abilities were extremely useful. He estimated he'd use them frequently. After a few deployments, he definitely wouldn't be able to hide them. Better to bring them up himself. What ideas? Orochimaru looked up. The Nara clan's research on shadows focuses entirely on controlling or attacking enemies. Natsuki spoke slowly. I think we can change the approach, research how shadows affect oneself instead. That's related to the Nara clan's role in the Inoshikacho formation. Orochimaru said casually. Inoshikacho always operated as a unit. The Nara clan's shadow techniques were designed to serve the team. My idea is to open a space within one's own shadow. Natsuki's voice deepened. Then hide oneself or various items within that shadow space. Orochimaru's calm expression froze. Sarutobi Hiruzen was known as the professor of ninjutsu, but Orochimaru was no slouch either. He had researched countless techniques in depth. He immediately grasped the applications for these two shadow jutsu. Undoubtedly, they would be immensely helpful to any ninja. My yin release is weak, so I'll need teacher's guidance. Natsuki added. The Nara clan's shadow techniques were fundamentally yin release. With your current strength and age, creating yin release ninjutsu isn't normally feasible. But your concept is genuinely excellent. Orochimaru stood, retrieved a scroll from the bookshelf, and handed it over. Read this first. Thank you, teacher. Natsuki glanced at the cover. 4 characters, yin release fundamentals. If anything is unclear, come ask me. Orochimaru added. Understood. Natsuki paused, then asked, Teacher, could you take me on missions? Why the sudden question? Orochimaru looked mildly surprised. I want to adapt to ninja life early. Natsuki explained. And combat is the fastest way to improve. True ninja life is brutal. You need to be mentally prepared. Orochimaru considered for a moment. If your resolve hasn't changed by summer vacation, I'll take you on missions. As always, geniuses had privileges. The Ninja Academy could no longer contain his student. The boy needed exposure to the broader ninja world. Thank you, teacher. Natsuki exhaled with relief. It was currently June. Summer vacation would arrive soon. He wouldn't have to wait long. Creating shadow jutsu isn't something to rush. Your priority is still mastering Konoha-style kenjutsu. Orochimaru reminded him. Yes, teacher. Natsuki nodded. I'll go train now. He didn't directly ask Orochimaru for a summoning beast from Ryokai Cave. That would seem too eager. After all, technically speaking, he wasn't officially Orochimaru's disciple yet. After a slight bow, Natsuki left the study and headed to the courtyard. Not long after, Noeki arrived and trained alongside him. Noeki was still practicing water release ninjutsu. Like Sarutobi Hiruzen, Orochimaru knew all 5 elemental natures and could teach water release as well. Night fell. Natsuki returned to the Konoha orphanage. Only now did he have time to test his shadow space. He looked at his own shadow. Shadow space. After activating the ability, he felt a change in his shadow. Natsuki immediately took various ninja tools from his pouch and dropped them into the darkness. A sense of weight settled onto him. But it didn't currently affect his movement. He could also store food or medicine. A thought struck him. This shadow space is perfect for taijutsu specialists like Might Guy and Rock Lee. It was essentially built-in weight training. The next day. As soon as Natsuki walked into the Ninja Academy, he noticed something different. Every student he passed looked at him curiously. Bold girls approached to chat and ask for autographs. For the first time, he understood what it felt like to be a celebrity. The news of his victory over Inoshikacho had clearly spread throughout the school. But the Ninja Academy had many geniuses. Being the center of attention would only last so long. As usual, after finishing theory classes, Natsuki left the academy with Namikaze Minato. But today, he didn't go directly to Orochimaru. Instead, he headed for the Uchiha clan compound. Natsuki observed his surroundings as he walked. The Uchiha compound felt like a self-contained village, its own little world. Truly worthy of a legendary ninja clan. Combined with their notoriously unstable Sharingan, no wonder Sarutobi Hiruzen and Shimura Danzo paid such close attention to them. I wonder if Uchiha Fugaku has become clan head yet. Natsuki recalled that Fugaku was 5 or 6 years older than Uchiha Mikoto, probably around 17 now. In the current ninja world, lifespans were generally short. Living past 40 was considered a long life. At 17, Fugaku might already be leading the clan. But he wasn't here to find Uchiha Fugaku. He was here for Granny Cat. Granny Cat's origins were unknown, but she was the contractor for the Ninja Cat clan. She also ran a ninja tool shop. Most of her customers were Uchiha Shinobi. In the original story, both Uchiha Sasuke and Uchiha Itachi had treated her with great respect. Natsuki passed through the compound and soon arrived at an empty area. The empty area was actually a complex of abandoned buildings. The Ninja Cat clan's stronghold and Granny Cat's shop were located there. Who are you, meow? A ninja cat wearing red clothes appeared before him. I'm here to see Granny Cat. Natsuki replied. Not just anyone can see Granny Cat, meow. The ninja cat licked its paw. Seeing this, Natsuki immediately offered a silver vine drink. He had already guessed who this ninja cat was. Under Granny Cat, or rather, within the ninja cat clan, there were two high-ranking cats named Hina and Denka. Hina liked adding meow to the end of every sentence. And it was extremely greedy. Anyone who visited empty-handed would receive a very cold reception. You're not bad, meow. Hina's eyes lit up. It held the silver vine drink with both paws and took a sip. An intoxicated expression instantly spread across its face. Natsuki's mouth twitched. Why does this look exactly like catnip? He remembered the original story mentioning that the ninja cat clan loved silver vine drinks, so he'd bought plenty in advance. Under Hina's guidance, Natsuki met Granny Cat. You're not a child of the Uchiha clan. Granny Cat examined him. My name is Natsuki. He got straight to the point. I came because I want a ninja cat as a summoning beast. A Lord Orochimaru's student. Granny Cat spoke bluntly. As long as a ninja cat takes a liking to you, you can take it. Did Orochimaru's reputation really carry that much weight? Then again, Granny Cat probably wasn't doing this out of respect for Orochimaru specifically, but out of respect for Sarutobi Hiruzen. She had no desire or need to offend a ninja from the Hokage's faction. Thank you, Granny Cat. Natsuki followed Hina deeper inside. Ninja cats blanketed the area, covering every surface. His strategy was simple: bribery through food. The moment he revealed his treats, every ninja cat in sight became excited. Pick me! Pick me! I can do backflips. Boss, I can sing. And give massages. Natsuki's gaze landed on the cat who'd spoken last. It was completely white and quite beautiful. Then you it is. He pointed. Thank you, boss, meow. The white cat said happily. If a summoning beast didn't find a contractor, it could only stay here in the abandoned district. This one had long wanted to explore the outside world. Now it finally had the chance. Chapter 28, Minato's Lack of Confidence. After selecting the ninja cat, Hina handed Natsuki a contract scroll. He signed his name, officially becoming a contractor of the ninja cat clan. Natsuki didn't linger. After bidding Granny Cat farewell, he hurried back with his new companion. My name is Shirayuki, meow. Shirayuki bounced excitedly around Natsuki. As expected of a cat. Truly full of energy. Natsuki smiled. What abilities do you have? I can help you deliver intelligence and buy ninja tools. Shirayuki replied. Those are standard ninja cat clan abilities. What about your own? Natsuki asked again. I'm very fast, and my claws are extremely sharp, comparable to Kunao. Shirayuki extended her fluffy paws. With a soft snick, razor-sharp claws emerged. Natsuki nodded. He estimated Shirayuki's combat power was roughly equivalent to an ordinary genin. But that was fine. One couldn't expect a cat to possess world-ending power. Congratulations, host. You have acquired the ninja cat, Shirayuki. When summoned using the 10 Shadows technique, Shirayuki's speed is permanently increased by 30%. Natsuki raised an eyebrow. A 30% enhancement exceeded his expectations. For a ninja cat, 30% extra speed might not seem dramatic, but what about the snakes, toads, and slugs of the 3 Great Sage regions? That said, judging from the technique's description, each summoning beast probably received a different type of enhancement. Natsuki, is this your cat? The moment Natsuki walked into Orochimaru's residence, Nawaka's voice rang out. I'm Shirayuki, meow. Shirayuki raised a paw and waved. Pretty cute. Nawaka praised immediately. I went to Granny Cat's shop for ninja tools and picked up a summoning beast while I was there. Natsuki replied. I see. Nawaka looked at Shirayuki. When I have time, I'll go get one too. Ninja cats aren't suited for you. Natsuki shook his head. I think you should look for a summoning beast with sensory abilities. Sensory abilities? Nawaka blinked, not understanding. Neither of us are sensory-type ninjas. After graduation, we'll be vulnerable to traps and ambushes. Natsuki explained. You really do think of everything. Nawaka sighed. How about a ninja hound? Natsuki suggested. We can visit the Inyazuka clan and ask for one. The Inyazuka clan was famous for raising ninja hounds. Their inherited techniques were closely tied to their canine partners. But I don't know any Inyazuka ninjas. Noeke scratched his head. Your sister definitely does. Natsuki reminded him. Then let's go to Konoha Hospital together after training. Noeke said immediately. Sounds good. Natsuki nodded. His suggestion wasn't solely for the 10 Shadows technique. In the original timeline, Noeke had died to an explosive tag trap. But with a ninja hound, there was a high probability of avoiding that fate. Ninja hounds possessed an extraordinarily keen sense of smell. They could detect explosive tags or the lingering scent of whoever had set them. After their conversation, Natsuki drew the sword of the Thunder God and began practicing Konoha-style kenjutsu. After nearly 2 months of training, he had already mastered most of the style. The only technique still beyond his reach was the ultimate form, the Crescent Moon Dance. Because the Crescent Moon Dance incorporated the Shadow Clone Jutsu. With his limited ninjutsu talent, learning the Shadow Clone Jutsu would take considerable time. Besides, the Uzumaki Naruto template already contained the multiple Shadow Clone Jutsu. There was no need to learn the lesser version. The two were essentially the same technique except the standard Shadow Clone Jutsu had limits on how many clones could be created. The sun set in the west. Natsuki and Noeke finished training. After saying goodbye to Orochimaru, they headed to Konoha Hospital. Sister! Noeke spotted Tsunade from a distance and shouted. Standing beside Tsunade was Yakushi Nono. When she saw Natsuki, her eyes brightened but her attention was quickly captured by Shirayuki. Here! Natsuki picked up Shirayuki and placed her in Nono's arms. A warm smile spread across Nono's face. Sister, do you know any ninjas from the Inyazuka clan? Noeke turned to Tsunade. Natsuki and I want ninja hounds as summoning beasts. Are there any ninjas in Konoha that I don't know? Tsunade said proudly. Plenty of Inyazuka owe me favors. They'll definitely part with 2 ninja hounds. This was the network of Konoha's most outstanding medical ninja. Not to mention her other titles, granddaughter of the first Hokage, grandniece of the second, and student of the third. In all of Konoha, who would dare refuse her? She was the true queen of connections. Follow me. Since her shift had ended, Tsunade led them directly to the Inyazuka compound. With her assistants, Natsuki and Noeke each obtained a ninja hound. Natsuki's was completely black named Kurohana. Noeke's was gold and yellow named Saburo. Congratulations, host! You have acquired the ninja hound, Kurohana. When summoned using the 10 Shadows technique, Kurohana's sense of smell is permanently increased by 30%. Natsuki nodded in satisfaction. For a ninja, a hound's greatest utility was tracking. And tracking depended on scent. With a 30% enhancement to his olfactory abilities, Kurohana could be called the king among dogs. Natsuki and Yakushi Nono returned to the Konoha orphanage. From now on, Shirayuki and Kurohana would also live there. When Natsuki needed them, he would summon them using the 10 Shadows technique. Time flew. July arrived. Class 2A faced the final exams of their first semester. Teacher, do you think I can defeat Natsuki in tomorrow's practical combat exam? Namikaze Minato asked, his voice uncertain. There's a problem with your mindset. As a ninja, you must enter every fight believing you will win. Jiraiya clapped him on the shoulder. Your enemies won't show mercy just because you're weaker. I understand, teacher. Minato paused, then spoke with renewed seriousness. Don't worry too much. Your teacher is me, after all. Jiraiya laughed heartily. You know, my battles with Orochimaru back in the day were always dead even 50-50. If Orochimaru were present, he would have immediately called that out. But Minato didn't know the truth. Hearing those words, his confidence surged. Natsuki's teacher was Orochimaru. His teacher was Jiraiya. If their instructors were evenly matched, there was no reason the gap between students should be so large. Victory or defeat doesn't hinge on a single exam. Jiraiya added. You're perfectly suited for an S-rank ninjutsu. In 2 more years, once your fundamentals are solid, I'll teach it to you. S-rank ninjutsu? Minato's eyes lit up with anticipation. Once he learned an S-rank technique he would definitely defeat Natsuki. Chapter 29, Defeating Namikaze Minato Again. An unusual scene unfolded at the Konoha orphanage. 4 people, 1 dog, and 1 cat gathered around the dining table for dinner. Boss's cooking is incredible. Shirayuki exclaimed. Becoming boss's summoning beast was definitely the right choice, meow. Kurohana, on the other hand, said nothing, just inhaled her food like a whirlwind. The relationship between ninjas and summoning beasts was one of equals, so they could also eat at the table. Of course, Natsuki had prepared separate dishes specifically for them. Uzumaki Kushina took a sip of chicken soup and let out a contented breath. She casually reached over and rubbed Shirayuki's head. Girls were powerless against cute, fluffy things. She was no exception. In contrast, Yakushi no ate with elegant restraint. She carefully picked up a piece of beef, placed it in her mouth, and chewed slowly, savoring the rich flavor as it spread across her tongue. But a quiet sense of defeat settled over her. She had been studying culinary arts recently, yet no matter how much she practiced, she couldn't catch up to Natsuki. "This is infinitely better than my sister's cooking," Noeki said with genuine feeling. Natsuki glanced at him. In the original story, there had been a scene where Tsunade cooked. The victim was Noeki. Victim was the appropriate word because Tsunade's cooking was absolutely terrible. In that scene, Noeki's face had turned half black while eating, as if he'd been poisoned. "What are you all planning to do this summer?" Natsuki asked casually. "I'll keep training water release with my teacher." Noeki paused to answer. "I don't have a summer vacation." Yakushi no shook her head. "I'm going back to the Uzumaki clan with Lady Tsunade." Kushina looked up. She wasn't the Nine-Tails Jinchuriki yet. With Tsunade accompanying her, she was allowed to travel. After all, she hadn't been home in nearly half a year. Natsuki paused. A question suddenly occurred to him: when was the Uzumaki clan destroyed? The exact timing was never specified in the original story, but it should have been before the Second Shinobi World War. The situation was complicated. Helping them now would be extremely difficult. "What about you, Natsuki?" Kushina asked. "My teacher said he'd take me on missions." Natsuki replied. "What?" Noeki's eyes widened. "Why didn't sensei invite me? Is it dangerous to go on missions?" Nono immediately asked with concern. "With teacher there won't be any danger." Natsuki smiled. "I want to go too." Noeki snapped to attention. "I'll go ask teacher right now." "You'll still need to convince your sister," Natsuki reminded him. "She'll definitely agree," Noeki said instinctively. Though privately, he wasn't so confident. "What a shame. If I didn't have to return to the Uzumaki clan, I'd definitely come with you," Kushina said with regret. "There will be other opportunities," Natsuki said lightly. "True." Kushina nodded. "I'll join you next time." The next day arrived the final exam for Class 2A. As usual, the first day was theory. The second day was practical combat. After relentlessly grinding through study materials, Natsuki could now consistently place in the top 3 for theory. As long as he took first place in practical combat, his overall ranking would generally be first as well. But this exam held additional significance. He needed first place to unlock ability 3 of the Shiba Tatsuya template. The following morning. Ninja Academy Training Grounds. "Minato?" Natsuki asked. "How prepared are you for this exam?" "I've been training hard." Namikaze Minato smiled. "I won't disappoint you." "Hey, don't ignore me." Uzumaki Kushina huffed. "Who knows, I might take first place this time." She wasn't being arrogant. She genuinely had the strength to compete with Natsuki and Minato. In the previous monthly exam, she had defeated Onodera and claimed third place in Class 2A's practical combat rankings. After all, her teacher was Uzumaki Mito. In current-day Konoha, Mito could be considered the strongest. With her powerful sealing jutsu and status as the Nine-Tails Jinchuriki, even Sarutobi Hiruzen couldn't confidently claim he could defeat her. Not far away, Onodera watched the 3 of them. A thick, invisible barrier seemed to separate them from him. He used to think he was a genius. But after more than a year of brutal reality checks, he had accepted the truth. 9 a.m. Ishida Yu arrived on schedule. The practical combat exam officially began. Third round, fourth match, Natsuki vs Namikaze Minato. As Ishida Yu announced the pairing, Class 2A erupted with excitement. Some cheered for Natsuki, others supported Minato. But compared to a year ago when support had overwhelmingly favored Minato, most students now leaned toward Natsuki. "Let's have a good match." Minato took a deep breath, blocking out all distractions. His expression turned deadly serious. Natsuki nodded and drew a wooden sword. He attacked first. One sword style, 36-pound phoenix. The high-speed wooden blade trembled violently, generating a flying slash. Seeing this, Minato immediately formed hand seals. Chakra gathered in his palms, then transformed into a fierce gust of wind. C rank, wind release gale palm. Natsuki raised an eyebrow. Why not fire release? After all, Jiraiya's specialty was fire release. Of course, he also knew wind release. Though he rarely used it in the original story, Nagato had demonstrated wind release, gale palm. And Nagato's ninjutsu had all been taught by Jiraiya. Boom! The flying slash tore through the fierce wind. Minato wasn't surprised. He had anticipated this and dodged the residual slash in advance. After steadying himself, he immediately threw a shuriken. Its speed was extraordinary. Natsuki instinctively sensed danger and activated reinforcement magecraft. He raised his wooden sword to block. With a sharp crack, a section of the blade snapped clean off. Fortunately, the block bought him enough time. He flashed left, narrowly avoiding the shuriken. Wind release, shuriken. Clever. Natsuki glanced at the shuriken embedded in the ground. A sharp edge of wind chakra coated its surface. Wind release, shuriken imbued the projectile with elemental chakra, making it faster and giving it far greater cutting power. Even a reinforced wooden sword couldn't withstand it. The students of Class 2A gasped. Witnessing two wind release techniques in a single academy match was simply unbelievable. Especially since Minato had never shown wind release before. This is what a genius looks like. Ishida Yu was both shocked and thrilled. But Minato himself felt no joy. Wind release, shuriken was already his strongest wind technique. He had hoped to unexpectedly destroy Natsuki's weapon and claim victory, but the result was far from what he'd expected. There was definitely something unusual about that wooden sword. Still, he didn't give up. Clone Jutsu. Minato formed hand seals and created a duplicate. Summoning Jutsu. Natsuki discarded the broken sword and pressed his right palm to the ground. Revealing the 10 Shadows technique directly wasn't convenient right now. Shirayuki appeared instantly, leaped into the air, and swiped at the nearest Minato. What? Minato's vision blurred. Shirayuki was already in front of him. Left with no choice, he raised his arms to block. Poof! He vanished in a puff of smoke. The clone. Natsuki didn't hesitate. He drew another wooden sword. One sword style, Iai Lion's Song. He transformed into a flash of blade light and struck toward the real Minato. Minato felt the terrifying edge bearing down on him. He instinctively reached for a shuriken, but it was too late. Pain struck. His entire body flew backward. Minato sat slumped on the ground and sighed internally. He had chosen to learn wind release precisely because of its speed. Lightning release was actually faster, but Jiraiya only possessed fire, wind, earth, and water natures. Learning 2 wind release techniques in such a short time. If I don't work hard, you'll catch up soon. Natsuki sheathed his wooden sword, walked over, and extended his hand. He genuinely felt a sense of urgency. This was the future 4th Hokage, after all. We'll fight again next time. Minato blinked, then grasped the offered hand and rose to his feet. I'll be waiting. Natsuki smiled. Minato smiled back. This is the will of fire. In the Hokage's office, Sarutobi Hiruzen watched the scene through his crystal ball with deep satisfaction. Because 2 of his grand disciples were in Class 2A, he now observed every practical combat exam. Congratulations, host! You have unlocked Shiba Tatsuya Template Ability 3, Non-Systematic Magic Phantom Blow. Natsuki nodded. With this, all abilities of the Shiba Tatsuya template were fully unlocked. Chapter 30, The First Mission. The practical combat exam for Class 2A quickly came to a close. Ishida Yu combined the results with yesterday's theory exam and announced the final rankings. Without a doubt, first place belonged to Natsuki. Damn it! Uzumaki Kushina said with evident frustration. Third place again. It's not your fault. Natsuki offered comfort. Sealing jutsu isn't suited for direct combat. If you'd learned wind release like Minato, you might already be in first place. He wasn't exaggerating. The difficulty of mastering sealing techniques far exceeded ordinary jutsu like water release. If Kushina hadn't focused on sealing, she could have saved considerable time. Unfortunately, she was the future Nine-Tails Jinchuriki. She could skip learning anything else but sealing jutsu was mandatory. Hard to say. Kushina shook her head. Minato can't beat you, and I probably can't either. Namikaze Minato opened his mouth to speak then stopped. You mean you can beat me? Can you two please consider my feelings when you chat? No one can predict the future. Natsuki smiled. Once Kushina became the Nine Tails Jinchuriki, even with his cheat, he would be suppressed and beaten for a considerable period. I agree. Minato nodded. He and Natsuki were friends and rivals. Although he'd lost today, as Jiraiya said, he couldn't lose confidence. Natsuki glanced at him. In the original story, Namikaze Minato never used wind release. The reason was simple, wind release like the vast majority of jutsu wasn't compatible with the Flying Thunder God technique. The most synergistic technique was the Raise Nan. No hand seals required. Instant deployment. Devastating power. Before developing the Raise Nan, Minato had relied primarily on the Flying Thunder God combined with Kunao and Shuriken. Senju Tobirama had been similar. His most iconic battle involved using the Flying Thunder God plus a Kunao to kill Uchiha Izuna Uchiha Madara's younger brother. Kunao, Shuriken, and the Raise Nan were enough to handle the vast majority of opponents. As the saying went, ninjas were fundamentally squishy. The reason Minato was using wind release now was entirely due to Natsuki's butterfly effect. To defeat him, Minato had gone out of his way to learn it. Natsuki considered the implications. He could try developing the Raise Nan early. If that failed, he could ask Minato to assist. Although it felt like stealing the idea, if Minato learned the Raise Nan ahead of schedule, his strength would far surpass his original timeline self. Want to come to my place for dinner? Natsuki invited. I'll cook. Kushina's eyes lit up immediately. She nodded without hesitation. Minato, recalling that indescribably wonderful taste, agreed just as quickly. Natsuki also called Yakushi Nono and Nawaki along. They all returned to the Konoha orphanage together. Natsuki. Nawaki said excitedly. My sister agreed to let me go on missions with you. Missions? Minato looked startled. Natsuki proposed it. Nawaki briefly explained the situation. Minato was stunned. He thought he was already working hard but Natsuki was even more intense. He's actually going on missions early? A powerful sense of urgency washed over him. If this continued, the gap between them would only widen. I need to do missions too. After lunch, Minato bolted away at maximum speed. Natsuki couldn't help but smile. Pushing the future 4th Hokage this far was something to be proud of. The first day of summer vacation. Natsuki arrived at Tsunade's house. Her residence was located near the Hokage Rock, within the Senju clan compound. It was vast but rather quiet. The Senju clan had integrated into Konoha village for various reasons. Combined with the difficulty of recreating wood release, the only well-known Senju remaining were Tsunade and Nawaki. Natsuki raised his hand and knocked. The door opened. Tsunade, dressed in casual clothes, appeared before him. He couldn't help but pause. Tsunade usually wore a jonin flak jacket, radiating a heroic aura. But in white casual attire, her graceful figure was fully revealed. Have you eaten breakfast? Tsunade didn't seem surprised by his arrival. If not, you can join us. I've already eaten. Thank you, Lady Tsunade. Natsuki replied. Nawake is still eating. Come in and wait. Tsunade stepped aside. Natsuki nodded, removed his shoes, and walked into the living room. He immediately met Nawake's gaze. Without a word spoken, he read 3 words in those desperate eyes. Save me. Natsuki blinked. Was Tsunade's cooking really that bad? He looked at Nawaki and shrugged helplessly. How am I supposed to save you? Tell Tsunade her cooking is terrible and offer to do it myself? I'd probably have to be carried out of here. Ultimately, Nawaki finished his breakfast wearing a mask of suffering. Outside the village is different from inside. You must be careful at all times. Tsunade instructed. Sister, don't worry, there won't be any problems. Nawaki said impatiently. All right, Natsuki and I are heading out. Wait for us to come back. Listen to me properly. Tsunade glared. Nawaki didn't respond. He simply ran off. Natsuki, keep an eye on him for me. Tsunade softened her tone. Nawaki can be quite reckless. Nawaki was basically a carbon copy of Uzumaki Naruto. cheerful but careless about details. It felt like he didn't have the protagonist's destiny but had caught the protagonist's disease. I understand. Natsuki nodded, turned, and caught up with Noeki. The two soon arrived at Orochimaru's residence. Orochimaru was already standing at the door, waiting. Teacher. Noeki asked excitedly. What's our first mission? Travel to the northwestern region of the Land of Fire and eliminate a group of mountain bandits. Orochimaru replied. The mission rank is C. Only C rank. Noeki's expression fell. Don't aim too high. Orochimaru glanced at him. Receiving a C rank mission on your first outing is already an exception. Normally, new ninjas could only take D rank missions for an extended period. Team 7 where Uzumaki Naruto served had completed numerous D rank assignments before finally receiving the C rank mission to the Land of Waves. Are there rogue ninjas among the bandits? Natsuki asked after a moment's thought. The leader is reportedly a genin though the client mentioned he could be chunin level. Orochimaru said casually. If it's a chunin, the mission will be upgraded to B rank. Leave the leader to me. Noeki answered quickly. This is a squad mission. Orochimaru reminded him. And there are quite a few bandits. You'll need a proper plan. Then Noeki-senpai and I will formulate one. Natsuki said immediately. Good. Orochimaru nodded slightly. Let's go. We'll discuss the details on the way. Both Natsuki and Noeki were on their first mission. They didn't know many operational specifics yet. That could only be taught by their teacher. Chapter 31, Enfiria Template. After leaving Konoha village, Orochimaru began observing his two students. It was the first time outside the village for both Natsuki and Noeki. Everything seemed novel, and they kept glancing around at their surroundings. But it didn't take long for a difference to emerge. Natsuki calmed down quickly. Orochimaru nodded slightly. Compared to Noeki, Natsuki behaved more like a proper ninja. Looking at it now, Tsunade's decision to make Natsuki Noeki's teammate was indeed an excellent choice. A team needed a tactical core. Especially with a personality like Noeki's. Without someone keeping an eye on him at all times, problems were inevitable. I'll assign your tasks. Orochimaru said. Teacher, we haven't arrived yet. Are there other tasks? Noeki asked, confused. There's only this one mission. Orochimaru clarified. I'm referring to your responsibilities during the journey. He quickly laid out the assignments. Simply put, Natsuki and Noeki would act as sensory support monitoring their surroundings at all times. Orochimaru rarely spoke this much at once. Both students listened intently. These were valuable lessons that might save their lives someday. Go, Saburo. Noeki used the summoning jutsu and called forth his ninja hound. Ninja hounds possessed keen senses of smell extremely useful for detecting strangers. Natsuki also summoned his ninja hound, Kurohana. He and Noeki took positions at the front and rear of the formation, watching for any anomalies. Orochimaru walked between them, sharing whatever precautions came to mind. The journey was uneventful. Evening soon arrived. During missions, avoid open flames as much as possible. Orochimaru said as he opened a bento box. Natsuki and Noeki were well prepared and retrieved their own meals. After dinner, the two discussed the bandits' oppression. The bandits were stationed on a mountain, approximately 12 in total. Only the leader was a ninja. The rest were ordinary men. We'll climb up from the back of the mountain. Natsuki suggested. Use the cover of night for a sneak attack. His Fushiguro Megami template required assassinating a chunin and a Takebutsu jonin. The bandit leader might be chunin level. That met the condition he couldn't miss this opportunity. No objections. Noeki nodded. If he were planning this, he would have simply charged straight in without all the complexity. If we're discovered, we can set fires to create confusion. Natsuki added. The leader's strength is unknown. Whoever spots him must call for backup immediately. Good thinking. Orochimaru praised. In his view, for a 7-year-old to devise such thorough plans meant Natsuki was a natural-born ninja. You two will take the night watch. Orochimaru added. Yes, teacher. Natsuki and Noeki answered in unison. A new day arrived. After 2 consecutive days of travel, they finally reached their destination. During those 2 days, Orochimaru had spoken extensively, making Natsuki wonder if he was inherently talkative. As a teacher, Orochimaru was truly exceptional. Setting Noeki aside, he had treated Mitarashi Anko remarkably well. When he defected, he had even asked for her thoughts. When she refused to follow, he didn't force her. When they met again years later, Anko had attacked with lethal intent, yet he still showed mercy and spared her life. Night fell. Natsuki and Noeki exchanged a glance, then headed up the mountain. The peak wasn't high, but they were climbing the rear slope extremely steep. Fortunately, they were ninjas. A steep mountain was nothing. 10 minutes later, they arrived at a position just below the summit. You take left, I take right. Noeki whispered. Natsuki nodded. The two leaped simultaneously, charging toward the two bandits guarding the rear entrance at extreme speed. They covered the bandits' mouths, slashed with the kunao in their right hands, and blood spilled. How are you holding up? Natsuki asked, looking at Noeki after lowering the body. I'm fine. Noeki took a deep breath. Just, not used to killing. First time. Everyone reacted differently to taking a life. Perhaps because he had lived 2 lives, Natsuki felt no discomfort. Keep moving. Natsuki headed toward the left side of the camp. Noeki went right. It was late. Apart from the patrolling guards, the bandits were deep asleep. Natsuki approached a wooden cabin and spotted a sleeping figure through the window. He threw a poison-coated senbon. The needle struck the bandit's throat. The man instinctively opened his eyes, clutched his neck, tried to cry out but couldn't. Eventually, he fell into eternal silence. Natsuki continued forward, eliminating 3 more bandits the same way. But then a piercing scream rang out nearby. The entire camp jolted awake. It seemed Noeki had been discovered. Natsuki guessed what happened but didn't rush out to help. Instead, he concealed himself in the shadows. A roar echoed in the next instant. A massive water dragon surged forth, rampaging through the camp. Noeki's water release, water dragon bullet. Right then a figure appeared behind Noeki. A fist swung toward the back of his head. Noeki reacted, but could only defend hastily. He spun, crossed his arms, and blocked the blow. Seeing the attack fail, the bandit leader immediately swept his leg, striking Noeki's shins. Noeki grimaced and fell backward. Fire! A sudden shout made the bandit leader instinctively look over. The entire camp was engulfed in flames. There's another one. The leader hesitated immediately. For Noeki to use water dragon bullet at such a young age meant his background was extraordinary. Now there was a second attacker? Continuing this fight might cost him his life. Noeki didn't know what the man was thinking. He seized the opening and formed hand seals. Water release, wild water wave. He opened his mouth and expelled a torrent of water. Get lost! The bandit leader drew his sword, cleaved through the stream, and turned to flee. Natsuki finally made his move. One sword style, Iai Lion's Song. He transformed into a blur of wind in the darkness, accompanied by a terrifying edge, and pierced straight through the bandit leader. The man's body shuddered. He looked down instinctively. A blade tip protruded from his chest. Natsuki's sword of the Thunder God had impaled him from behind, straight through the heart. With his death, the remaining bandits lost all will to resist and were swiftly dealt with. How are you doing? Natsuki asked, watching Noeki limp over. Bruised. Noeki sat on the ground, rolled up his pant leg, and examined his calf. I have medicine. Natsuki retrieved a bottle, poured out some liquid, and applied it to Noeki's injury. Noeki winced but endured without crying out. In the ninja world, besides medical ninjas, there existed another profession, apothecaries. They didn't know medical ninjutsu, but they understood how to concoct medicines. In fact, apothecaries were the mainstream. Medical ninjas were simply too rare. Carrying various healing medicines was standard practice for any shinobi. And the most famous medicinal herb merchants in Konoha were the Nara clan. You have awakened the Enphyria template. Natsuki's hands paused. Who? He examined the newly awakened template. Name, Enphyria bearer. Era, final. World, Overlord. Rank, C rank. Ability 1, innate talent unlocked. Effect, can use all ninja tools without any restrictions. Ability 2, blue healing potion locked. Effect, promotes physical self-healing, recovering from injuries at a gradual pace. Unlock condition, successfully concoct it once independently according to the formula. Ability 3, red healing potion, blood of God locked. Effect, promotes physical self-healing, recovering from injuries at an extremely rapid pace. Unlock condition, successfully concoct it once independently according to the formula. Ability 4, Stamina Recovery Potion locked. Effect, recovers stamina, relieves fatigue, and can even sustain demanding physical activity. Unlock condition, successfully concoct it once independently according to the formula. Natsuki's pulse quickened. 3 formulas flooded into his mind. These potions were genuinely incredible. The only problem? The formulas were extremely complicated. Chapter 32, Teacher Tsunade. Natsuki didn't study the template right away. After helping Noeki apply the medicine, he supported him down the mountain. You did adequately. Orochimaru spoke first upon seeing them. But Noeki was too careless during the assassination. Obviously, he had observed the entire operation from the shadows. It was precisely during Noeki's assassination that the target had screamed before dying, alerting the entire camp. Sorry. Noeki replied, embarrassed. Failed experience is still experience. Remember tonight's lesson, and you won't repeat the same mistake. Orochimaru lectured in a calm tone. Yes, teacher. Noeki nodded vigorously. We'll rest here tonight and return to Konoha tomorrow. Orochimaru ordered. Noeki, you'll write the mission report this time. After every mission, a detailed report had to be submitted to the village. First, to prevent squads from falsifying results. Second, to maintain records that might prove useful later. The tents were quickly set up. Natsuki had nothing else to do, so he returned to his tent. After settling in, he couldn't wait to examine his newly acquired Enphyria template. This was a character from Overlord. Ability 1 was Enphyria's innate talent. In the original story, he could use all magic items without restrictions, including those limited to specific races or bloodlines. But translated to the ninja world, it became ninja tools. How to put it? This ability had limited use here. Ninja tools in this world didn't have many restrictions to begin with. The only examples Natsuki could think of were the Uchiha's Gunbei and the Six Paths ninja tools. But judging from the original story, even those could be used casually. Natsuki paused. There was the box of ultimate bliss rumored to be a Six Paths relic. Opening it required massive chakra reserves and complex jutsu formulas. Could his innate talent bypass those requirements entirely? The problem was that the box of ultimate bliss functioned like a corrupted holy grail. It could grant wishes but in twisted, nightmarish ways. Natsuki had no interest in opening such a thing. But since it resembled a corrupted holy grail, could it trigger character templates from the Type Moon or Fate series? His strength wasn't sufficient yet. That could wait. The remaining 3 abilities weren't really abilities at all, they were potion formulas. Judging by their effects, the blue healing potion was the weakest. But the red healing potion, Blood of God, and the stamina recovery potion were top tier, useful for everyone from Genin to Jonin. The formula complexity confirmed this. For instance, the red healing potion required Hashirama cells or white Zetsu cells. After all, the potion's name included Blood of God. At least it didn't require Otsutsuki Kagai's blood. That would have made it completely useless. If he could obtain Kagai's blood, would he even need potions? As for the stamina recovery potion, it required Tailed Beast Chakra and Hero Water. Tailed Beast Chakra wasn't particularly difficult for Natsuki. Once Uzumaki Kushina became the Nine Tails Jinchuriki, he could simply ask her to leak a small amount. Hero Water came from Takigaku, or their supreme treasure. Its effect was permanently increasing the user's chakra capacity, but at the cost of shortened lifespan. Essentially trading HP for MP. Natsuki suspected the stamina recovery potion's essence was using hero water to convert Tailed Beast Chakra into recovered stamina and reduced fatigue. In the ninja world, a shinobi's stamina was equivalent to physical energy, which could then be converted into chakra. Natsuki considered his options and decided to start with the simplest, the blue healing potion. Its formula contained 7 medicinal herbs. He had previously studied basic medical knowledge with Yakushi no, which included various herbs. He recognized all 7, meaning they could all be purchased. For him, the greatest difficulty lay in extraction. After gathering the herbs, he needed to extract their essence. And that required becoming a medical ninja. He didn't have much talent for medical ninjutsu, but fortunately, extraction wasn't difficult. It was E-rank medical ninjutsu the most fundamental skill. Natsuki fell into thought. There were many late-blooming ninjas in this world. Jiraiya, for example. His talent had been average in youth. It wasn't until he became Mount Miyaboku's contractor that he began making a name for himself. Natsuki could also be a late-blooming medical ninja. Starting with potions, he would establish a persona as a medical ninja with pharmaceutical talent. Moreover, the system required him to independently complete all 3 concoctions. He had only made anesthetics before, so he had a foundation, but barely. In short, he needed Tsunade's help. The 3rd day arrived. Natsuki's squad successfully returned to Konoha village. Orochimaru dismissed them before heading off to submit the mission report. Natsuki followed Noeke to Konoha hospital. "Sister, I'm back." Noeke didn't even knock, he charged straight into Tsunade's office. "Why are you still so reckless?" Although Tsunade was scolding him, the smile on her face revealed her true feelings. "Hee hee." Noeke grinned carelessly and launched into an excited retelling of the mission. Overall, he stuck to the facts, but he embellished the combat portions considerably, making it sound like an epic clash of legendary warriors. Tsunade knew he was exaggerating but didn't call him out. She listened with a smile. Natsuki couldn't help noticing a trace of maternal warmth in her expression. But that made sense. Tsunade had essentially raised Noeke, acting as both sister and mother. She could simply be considered, ahem. "You both worked hard. Go home and rest." Tsunade waved dismissively after hearing everything. "Noeke-senpai, you go ahead. I have something to ask Lady Tsunade about." Natsuki stayed put. Noeke didn't press further. He turned and left. "Lady Tsunade." Natsuki spoke directly. "I want to learn how to make medicines, food pills, for example." He definitely couldn't just announce that he'd invented a potion formula. His foundation hadn't reached that level yet. He needed to learn first. Food pills were common medicines in the ninja world, capable of restoring a certain amount of stamina and chakra. In the original story, Haruno Sakura had often made them. Why the sudden interest? Tsunade looked mildly surprised. "Noeke and I will be going on missions with teacher regularly, but our squad doesn't have a medical ninja. Medicine becomes very important." Natsuki explained. "I studied with Nono before, so I have some foundation." "I see." Tsunade sighed. "Noeke is lucky to have a teammate like you." When she had chosen Natsuki as Noeke's partner, she thought his combat abilities were impressive. But looking at it now, he was exceptional in every aspect. A teammate who was strong, thoughtful, could make medicine, and could cook. Who wouldn't want that? "All right then." Tsunade considered for a moment. "Starting today, you'll learn pharmaceutical preparation from me." "Thank you, Teacher Tsunade." Natsuki blinked. He was seizing the opportunity to grow closer to Tsunade. After all, securing a powerful backer in Konoha was the surest way to live safely. Tsunade didn't comment on the title. She was teaching Natsuki how to make medicine, so she could indeed be considered his teacher. Moreover, he had called her Teacher Tsunade, which was different from directly calling Orochimaru teacher. Chapter 33, Blue Healing Potion. In a laboratory at Konoha Hospital. Natsuki looked at the crushed medicinal herbs before him, his expression solemn as he extended his hand. Chakra flowed from his palm, enveloping the herbs. The material began to tumble. Under the filtering effect of his chakra, impurities were stripped away until only powder remained. Natsuki exhaled with relief. After 3 months of study, his extraction technique had finally reached an acceptable standard. It was now October. The second semester of Class 2A was more than halfway finished. During this time, Natsuki had focused on only 3 things: missions, classes, and pharmaceutical training. He and Noeke, under Orochimaru's guidance, had completed 12 missions total, including 5 B-rank assignments. He had killed 7 Chunin. He was only 2 Chunin and 1 Takubutsu Jonin away from unlocking ability 2 of the Fushiguro Megami template. Natsuki placed the powder in a beaker and raised his hand again. Under the effect of his chakra, the powder compressed and solidified into a black pill. A food pill. Completing a food pill in 3 months. Your talent isn't top tier, but it's quite respectable. Tsunade stood opposite him, having observed the entire process. It's all thanks to Teacher Tsunade's excellent instruction. Natsuki picked up the food pill and tossed it into his mouth. A powerful medicinal taste shot straight to his brain. He grimaced deeply. He finally understood why Uzumaki Naruto and Uchiha Sasuke had looked so pained after eating Haruno Sakura's food pills. Here. Tsunade smiled and extended her hand. A piece of candy lay in her fair palm. "Thank you, Teacher Tsunade." Natsuki ate the candy. The sweetness washed away the awful aftertaste. He carefully monitored the changes in his body. His chakra had increased but not by much. No wonder in the later stages of the original story, virtually no ninja bothered with food pills. The tiny amount of chakra they restored was a drop in the bucket. Moreover, in a duel between top-tier combatants, the act of eating a pill might create an opening allowing the enemy to land a devastating blow. Natsuki felt the most useful pills in the original story were the Akimichi clan's 3-colored pills. Those could genuinely enhance strength in the early and middle stages. For the remaining time, continue making food pills until the process becomes second nature. Tsunade headed for the door. "If you have questions, find me in my office." The door closed. Natsuki's gaze drifted to the medicine cabinet nearby. Konoha Hospital maintained reserves of common medicinal herbs including all 7 required for the blue healing potion. He walked over and retrieved 1 portion of each. Then paused and took out 5 additional herbs. Natsuki planned to accidentally create the blue healing potion under seemingly coincidental circumstances. Among these 12 herbs, 4 could be used for anti-inflammatory ointment. Anti-inflammatory medicine already existed in the ninja world. He could easily claim he'd had a sudden inspiration while making it and accidentally stumbled upon a new formula. Time passed slowly. After 2 failures, Natsuki successfully produced the blue healing potion. The difficulty was slightly higher than a food pill, but fortunately not by much. "Congratulations, host! You have unlocked Enfiria Template Ability 2, Blue Healing Potion." Natsuki's body trembled as a flood of experience surged through him. If his success rate for the blue healing potion had been 60% before, it was now 100%. So this is the effect after unlocking the ability? Natsuki nodded appreciatively. In pharmaceutical work, achieving a 100% success rate was normally impossible. With guaranteed results, he would save enormous costs over time. Natsuki picked up the potion, hesitated, then abandoned the idea of testing it on himself. He had no injuries. Even if he drank it, he wouldn't be able to observe the specific effects. He turned and left the laboratory, heading for Tsunade's office. He knocked and entered. "Natsuki." Tsunade set down her documents. "Did you run into a problem?" "After getting comfortable with food pills, I tried making anti-inflammatory ointment." Natsuki replied. "But after mixing a few herbs, I accidentally created something new." Confusion flickered across Tsunade's face. Accidentally created a new medicine? The development of new medicines was even more difficult than creating new ninjutsu. It involved researching countless herb combinations, and a single misstep could produce poison instead. "Teacher Tsunade, please examine this." Natsuki presented the blue healing potion. Tsunade took it and observed carefully. After sniffing the scent, she drank it in one gulp. As the most outstanding medical ninja in the world, she possessed equally outstanding detoxification skills. Unless this was a deadly poison on the level of a salamander's venom, she was confident she could neutralize it after ingestion. Moreover, her assessment told her this wasn't poison at all. Tsunade closed her eyes. She carefully monitored the changes in her body. A moment later, surprise spread across her face. The effect of this potion is equivalent to a D-rank healing jutsu. Tsunade took a deep breath. The healing jutsu was essentially a weakened mystical palm technique. It could mend minor injuries, both internal and external. Although it couldn't treat moderate or severe wounds, it could still stabilize a patient and buy time until proper help arrived. Natsuki wasn't surprised. After all, the system had clearly stated the blue healing potion promoted physical self-healing at a gradual pace. The only drawback is the 5-second activation time, which makes it unsuitable for combat use. Tsunade paused. But even so, this qualifies as a genuinely useful invention. The root issue was the scarcity of medical ninjas. Carrying a blue healing potion was equivalent to carrying a medical genin who knew the healing jutsu. What about the red healing potion, blood of God, and the stamina recovery potion? Wouldn't that be like carrying a medical jonin? The strategic implications were extraordinary. Natsuki was certain that if he handed over those formulas, he would become Tsunade's most precious asset. The kind you hold in your hands for fear of dropping and hold in your mouth for fear of melting. But handing them over was impossible. Presenting the relatively minor blue healing potion was already enough. He would earn less money, yes, but this was the ninja world. Strength mattered more than wealth. Surviving and growing stronger was paramount. For the red healing potion, Blood of God and the stamina recovery potion, he planned to eventually collaborate with Orochimaru or Tsunade. First, because mass production was impossible. Second, because he couldn't obtain the raw materials alone. Hashirama sells tailed beast chakra. But he couldn't propose direct collaboration either. He couldn't explain the source of his knowledge. The best approach was still accidental discovery, just like today. Now that he had established the foundation of his persona, the rest was simply a matter of time. There are many healing medicines in the ninja world, but those with effects comparable to medical ninjutsu can be counted on one hand. Tsunade looked at Natsuki and sighed. You've truly surprised me. The blue healing potion was already enough to earn her respect. Even if it couldn't be used mid-combat, administering it afterward would still have significant impact. What do you plan to do with this formula? Tsunade asked. According to Konoha's regulations, whoever invented something owned it. But it could also be surrendered to the village in exchange for merit. This potion cannot realize its maximum value in my hands. Natsuki spoke with resolve. I plan to hand it over and let the village promote it to save more lives. Astonishment crossed Tsunade's face. His answer far exceeded her expectations. You've already grasped the true essence of being a medical ninja. Tsunade recovered and praised him openly. If you weren't already Orochimaru's student, I would definitely take you as mine. I'm your student too, Teacher Tsunade. Natsuki said seriously. Come with me to see teacher. I won't let you be shortchanged. Tsunade nodded, stood, and led the way. Thank you, Teacher Tsunade. Natsuki followed her to the Hokage's office. Natsuki, I didn't misjudge you after all. Sarutobi Hiruzen said with evident satisfaction after hearing the full account. What an outstanding inheritor of the will of fire. Teacher, please assign this potion to Konoha Hospital for production and distribution. Tsunade spoke firmly. As the inventor, Natsuki will receive 30% of the profits. Sarutobi Hiruzen paused. He understood giving a share of the profits. But wasn't 30% excessive? Konoha village would be providing the herbs and labor. This meant Natsuki could do nothing and still receive 30%. Sarutobi Hiruzen considered, then ultimately agreed. First, because Konoha wouldn't lose out. Medical ninjas were scarce throughout the ninja world. The blue healing potion would be highly sought after. Given its delayed activation during combat, Konoha could even sell it to other villages at premium prices. At least Konoha had Tsunade. The medical ninja situation in other villages was dire, barely a handful per nation. Second, because Natsuki was one of their own. A ninja of the Hokage's faction. Moreover, if he could invent one formula, he could invent two or more. Thank you, Lord Hokage. Natsuki felt genuine excitement. At this point, he was essentially untouchable within Konoha. He had Sarutobi Hiruzen, Orochimaru, and Tsunade as backers. And the 30% profit from the blue healing potion meant he could earn significant money while doing nothing. Over time, he might even become the wealthiest person in Konoha. Chapter 34, The Opening of the Second Shinobi World War. Natsuki returned to the laboratory at Konoha Hospital. But this time, besides him and Tsunade, 5 medical jonin were also present. I called you here to learn a new potion. Tsunade got straight to the point. Natsuki, demonstrate the process. The 5 medical jonin couldn't hide their surprise. What did she mean? Natsuki invented this potion? Natsuki was now Orochimaru's student and fairly well known throughout Konoha. They all knew something about him. But wasn't his talent supposed to be in Kenjutsu? How did he also possess pharmaceutical aptitude? Geniuses were truly unpredictable. Natsuki nodded. He retrieved 7 herbs from the medicine cabinet and began the extraction process. Tsunade and the others watched his movements intently, memorizing each step like students. After some time, a fresh blue healing potion was produced. All of you, taste it. Tsunade handed the potion to the 5 medical jonin. Each took a small sip. Soon, shock spread across their faces. The effect far exceeded their expectations. 5 seconds to activate might sound slow, but compared to other medicines, it was remarkably fast. Natsuki, watch my movements. If anything is incorrect, point it out. After speaking, Tsunade retrieved the 7 herbs herself. Natsuki observed her hands carefully. After watching for a while, he couldn't help but admire her skill. As expected of the world's greatest medical ninja, she had perfectly replicated the process after seeing it only once. Tsunade picked up her blue healing potion, examined it briefly, and nodded. The techniques Natsuki used were relatively basic. As long as they knew the formula, most medical ninjas could successfully produce it. This was undoubtedly advantageous. Mass production would be simple. Familiarize yourselves with the production process. Tsunade instructed the 5 medical jonin, then turned to Natsuki. Come with me. Natsuki nodded and followed her to her office. Wait a moment. I'll draft a contract. After sitting down, Tsunade retrieved a blank scroll. Natsuki settled onto the sofa. It's ready. Sign here. Tsunade stood and walked over, extending the scroll. Natsuki took it and reviewed the contents. The terms matched what Sarutobi Hiruzen had stated earlier. 30% of the blue healing potion's profits would go to Natsuki. At the bottom was Tsunade's signature, with 2 empty spaces remaining. Obviously meant for Natsuki and Sarutobi Hiruzen. After reading, Natsuki wrote his name on the scroll. He handed it back. Thank you, Teacher Tsunade. Tsunade smiled and reached out to ruffle his hair. She took the scroll. Konoha should be thanking you. Without your blue healing potion, this contract wouldn't exist. Natsuki chatted with her briefly, then took his leave. The blue healing potion had achieved its intended purpose according to his plan. He would suspend pharmaceutical work for now. After all, he couldn't produce the red healing potion, blood of God, or the stamina recovery potion in the short term. Teacher. Natsuki walked into Orochimaru's study. What is this? Orochimaru asked, examining the blue healing potion Natsuki handed him. A new medicine I accidentally created. Natsuki replied. Orochimaru paused, then took a sip. He felt the changes in his body and couldn't hide his surprise. Very good. Orochimaru praised openly. Creating the blue healing potion at age 7, even he couldn't have done that. You may continue pursuing this. Orochimaru paused. But you must not let it interfere with your combat training. Yes, teacher. Natsuki nodded. I've mastered all of Konoha-style kenjutsu except for the crescent moon dance. Then I'll teach you Uchiha-style kenjutsu today. Orochimaru smiled faintly. Normally, non-Uchiha ninjas couldn't learn Uchiha-style kenjutsu. But as Sarutobi Hiruzen's student, Orochimaru naturally had ways to acquire it. Shimura Danzo was even more extreme. He had even learned the Uchiha clan's forbidden technique, Izanagi. Natsuki immediately thought of Uchiha Shisui. Shisui had combined Uchiha-style kenjutsu with fire release to create ninteijutsu like Uchiha-style, Halo Dance. Ninteijutsu was a fusion of taijutsu and ninjutsu. In the ninja world, kenjutsu could also be classified as taijutsu. Natsuki began learning Uchiha-style kenjutsu from Orochimaru. He quickly confirmed his suspicion, ninteijutsu like Uchiha-style, Halo Dance had been created by Uchiha Shisui himself. He had never seen other Uchiha use them in the original story. The next day arrived. Konoha Hospital had already begun producing the blue healing potion at full capacity, but that had nothing to do with Natsuki. He just needed to sit back and collect his share. The morning consisted of theory classes as usual. After they ended, Natsuki had lunch with Uzumaki Kushina, Yakushi Nono, and Namikaze Minato. I'll be training with you for the time being. After lunch, Minato caught up with Natsuki. Does Lord Jiraiya have a mission? Natsuki asked after a moment's thought. You figured it out immediately. Sharp as always. Minato looked mildly surprised. It's not difficult to guess. Natsuki explained. Teacher Tsunade is a medical ninja. If Lord Jiraiya isn't available, he would naturally direct you to my teacher. Teacher went to the land of rain to gather intelligence. Minato's expression grew serious. Barring any surprises, there will be war in that region. Natsuki's heart lurched. Is the Second Shinobi World War about to begin? But fortunately, he still had time. The Second Shinobi World War had lasted 3 or 4 years. With the Land of Rain as the primary battlefield, Konoha, Tsunagakure, Omegakure, and Uegakure had taken turns fighting one another. Konoha had engaged in major battles against both Omegakure and Tsunagakure. The two most famous clashes were undoubtedly the battle that made the Sunin legendary and the battle that made Tsunade's reputation. The former was Tsunade, Jiraiya, and Orochimaru against Hanzo. The latter was Tsunade against Joe, a war between medical ninjas. Of course, the greatest consequence of that war was the birth of the Akatsuki organization. However, for Natsuki, there was one more critical event to monitor, the destruction of the Uzumaki clan. If full-scale war breaks out, we might graduate early. Minato spoke gravely. We need to get stronger fast. Natsuki nodded. In the original story, both Namikaze Minato and Uzumaki Kushina had graduated at age 10 right during the most intense period of the Second Shinobi World War. Minato, do you have any information on Uchiha Mikoto? Natsuki asked after a moment's thought. You want to challenge her? Minato caught on immediately. After all, Natsuki had previously challenged Narashikaku and the others. The Uchiha clan is legendary throughout the ninja world. I want to experience the Sharingan for myself. Natsuki admitted. She's ranked first in the 6th year. Information on her shouldn't be hard to find. Leave it to me, I'll ask around tomorrow. Minato agreed readily. Because he felt he could also learn from Natsuki's approach and challenge upperclassmen himself. Since that was the case, he might as well gather some intelligence. Chapter 35, Defeating Uchiha Mikoto. In the courtyard, Natsuki, Noeki, and Namikaze Minato were training. Orochimaru stood nearby, occasionally offering guidance. For him, having an extra student in Minato wasn't an inconvenience. He was also highly skilled in wind release. Take a 10-minute break. Orochimaru estimated the time and spoke up. The three immediately stopped their training. Teacher. Natsuki sheathed the sword of the Thunder God and approached him. I plan to challenge Uchiha Mikoto. Then you must learn how to counter genjutsu. Orochimaru considered briefly. Ninjas of the Uchiha clan could all be considered genjutsu specialists. The reason lay in the Sharingan. The Sharingan possessed many functions, but its three most fundamental were observation, copying, and hypnosis. Observation meant the Sharingan possessed extraordinary visual acuity, able to clearly perceive a target's movements and even their chakra flow. Copying meant a Sharingan user could rapidly learn a target's taijutsu and ninjutsu, excluding Kekkei Genkai. In the original story, after Hatake Kakashi obtained his Sharingan, he copied over 1,000 techniques and earned the title Copy Ninja. Hypnosis referred to genjutsu. The Sharingan could both cast and see through illusions. Understood. Natsuki nodded. I'd like teacher to instruct me in genjutsu dispelling. I want to learn too. Noeki raised his hand. Namikaze Minato didn't speak, but his expression made his thoughts clear. He wanted to learn as well. Because in the ninja world, genjutsu specialists were notoriously difficult to handle. A single moment of carelessness could mean falling under an illusion and losing all initiative. With your talent, you can master genjutsu dispelling within a month. Orochimaru didn't refuse. For this month, you'll train together. Without further preamble, he began explaining genjutsu. Genjutsu was fundamentally yin release. It achieved mental attacks by manipulating the chakra flow in a target's cranial nerves. Simply put, it disrupted the target's 5 senses to create illusions. Therefore, genjutsu could be categorized as visual, auditory, tactile, and so on. Among them, visual genjutsu was the most common. Sharingan-based genjutsu, for example, were all visual in nature. When fighting Uchiha ninjas, there was one golden rule: never look into their Sharingan. There were 2 methods to break a genjutsu. One was breaking it yourself. The other was with a teammate's assistance. But the essence of both methods was identical: disrupting your own chakra flow. Fighting a genjutsu specialist was all about speed. You had to dispel the illusion before they could launch their follow-up attack. The next day at noon, on the rooftop of Class 2A's building, Natsuki, Uzumaki Kushina, Yakushi Nono, and Namikaze Minato gathered for lunch. Natsuki. Minato spoke up. I've gathered intelligence on Uchiha Mikoto. Who's Uchiha Mikoto? Kushina asked, confused. First place in the 6th year. Minato replied. Natsuki wants to challenge her. Kushina's eyes lit up. When? Nono also looked toward Natsuki. Haven't decided yet. Natsuki shook his head. Minato, go ahead. Uchiha Mikoto possesses a one-tomo Sharingan. Every student who's faced her was defeated by her kenjutsu. Minato's voice was serious. Apparently, none of them could even touch the hem of her clothes. That sounds a lot like your style. Kushina reached over with her chopsticks and snatched a piece of chicken from Natsuki's bento. Her own lunch was prepared by Uzumaki Mito. It didn't taste bad, but it was far inferior to Natsuki's cooking. It is quite similar. Minato nodded slightly. Because of his exceptional dynamic vision and reaction speed, he could anticipate opponents' movements during combat. The most typical example was his fight against Uzumaki Kushina. Kushina's taijutsu was actually stronger than his, but she couldn't land a hit, so her advantage was meaningless. Natsuki was different. His kenjutsu was simply too fast, making it difficult for Minato to react and dodge. Has she ever used fire release or genjutsu? Natsuki asked after a moment's thought. She's used fire release, great fireball technique. Minato replied. No genjutsu on record. Natsuki, are you confident? Kushina tilted her head. Based on current intelligence, her strength doesn't exceed mine. Natsuki considered carefully. My only concern is whether she knows genjutsu. In the original story, Uchiha Mikoto had never displayed her combat abilities. The only known fact was that she had reached Jonin rank. To become a Jonin, her talent couldn't have been lacking. Then I'll challenge her in a month. Natsuki made his decision. That month was for both mastering genjutsu dispelling and learning Uchiha-style kenjutsu. Time passed quickly. October arrived in the blink of an eye. A month later, on the Ninja Academy training grounds, the students of Class 2A and Class 6A gathered together. Natsuki used the same approach as before, asking Ishida Yu for assistance. Having done it once, Ishida Yu agreed readily and arranged another inter-class exchange meet with Class 6A. The 4-year gap really is too large. Ishida Yu shook his head as he watched the matches unfold. So far, Class 2A had won only 2 fights. Those 2 victories belonged to Uzumaki Kushina and Namikaze Minato. 27th match, Natsuki vs Uchiha Mikoto. Ishida Yu gathered his energy and announced loudly. This was undoubtedly the main event. Students from both classes buzzed with discussion. Although Natsuki was Orochimaru's student, Uchiha Mikoto was an Uchiha and 4 years older. Except for a few, most students believed Mikoto had the advantage. Natsuki observed his opponent. Long black hair. Fair skin. A quiet, gentle demeanor like the girl next door. Senior Mikoto. Natsuki greeted her first. I've heard your name for quite some time. Uchiha Mikoto spoke softly. I'm honored to spar with you today. Please, let's have a good match. Natsuki nodded. Most Uchiha were proud and arrogant. But Uchiha Mikoto was completely different. It was hard to associate her with the clan's typical temperament. Begin. Ishida Yu announced. Uchiha Mikoto immediately raised her hands. In an instant, dozens of shuriken flew toward Natsuki's head. Natsuki raised an eyebrow. As expected of an Uchiha. This level of ninja tool throwing far exceeded her peers. Gravity mitigation. Reinforcement magecraft. Natsuki's form blurred. He charged toward Mikoto at extreme speed. The dozens of shuriken instantly lost their target and clattered to the ground. So fast. Mikoto hurriedly activated her one Tomo Sharingan. After tracking Natsuki's position, she drew her practice sword. One sword style, Lion Strike. Natsuki immediately recognized it Uchiha-style kenjutsu. He had been studying the style recently. He instantly identified her opening. His wooden sword accurately intercepted her blade. Simultaneously, he pressed down with his wrist, unleashing massive force. Mikoto's expression shifted. She couldn't help but stumble back half a step. But her reaction was equally fast. She twisted her blade and thrust straight at Natsuki's abdomen. Golden right foot. Natsuki kicked the sword aside. Mikoto felt her right arm go numb. She nearly lost her grip. What incredible strength! While processing this, she retreated backward. At that instant, she sensed danger. One sword style, 36-pound phoenix. Natsuki gripped his wooden sword with both hands and slashed. A materialized flying strike surged outward. The sharp pressure enveloped Mikoto, making it difficult to breathe. At the critical moment, she threw her sword. The wooden blade shattered within the flying slash. But Mikoto used that opening to vanish from her position. Body flicker technique. Natsuki quickly scanned his surroundings. In the next instant, scorching heat rolled toward him. Fire release, great fireball technique. The moment Mikoto reappeared, she exhaled a massive fireball. One sword style, Iai Lion's Song. Natsuki gripped his wooden sword and transformed into a beam of light, charging forward. Mikoto reacted immediately. Natsuki's kenjutsu was already famous throughout the academy. She wasn't surprised to see Lion's Song. She used the body flicker technique again, darting several meters to the left. By the time she steadied herself, her fireball had already been split cleanly in half. Without a word, Natsuki charged toward her. Now! Mikoto immediately formed hand seals. Demonic Illusion, Hell Viewing Technique. A D-rank genjutsu. Its effect was making the target see the scene they feared most. But then Mikoto paused. Because she saw Natsuki throw away his wooden sword. Non-systematic magic, Phantom Blow. Natsuki raised his hand. At the same moment, Mikoto's genjutsu activated. Both of their bodies went rigid, frozen in place. Mikoto felt as if a hammer had struck her skull. Dizziness overwhelmed her. Natsuki saw his greatest fear, captured by root, with Shimura Danzo grinning at him like a sadistic torturer. Genjutsu dissipation. Natsuki had anticipated this. He dispelled the illusion the instant it took hold. He lunged forward and pressed a kunai directly against Mikoto's throat. We won! Uzumaki Kushina immediately burst with excitement. Namikaze Minato, on the other hand, felt a mountain of pressure. What just happened? What was that last technique? When did he learn it? Why has he gotten so much stronger again? For a moment, questions flooded his mind. Chapter 36, Shippo Template. Mikoto with her Sharingan actually lost? This is unbelievable. Natsuki is 4 years younger than her. To defeat her across that gap, he really is a monster. What was that last technique? A genjutsu. The students of both classes buzzed with excited discussion over Natsuki's victory. After all, most of them had been supporting Uchiha Mikoto. Such an unexpected outcome left them stunned. The dizziness quickly faded. Uchiha Mikoto steadied herself and saw the kunai pressed against her throat. She couldn't help but feel momentarily dazed. Although she wasn't a typical Uchiha, she had genuinely believed she would win before the fight. Because she had learned not only fire release and genjutsu but had also awakened her one-tomo Sharingan. In the ninja world, there was a saying, in a one-on-one fight, an Uchiha is invincible. It couldn't be helped. The Sharingan was simply too powerful. Just the ability to clearly perceive every movement provided a massive combat advantage. And it had been true up until now. Her fight with Natsuki could essentially be considered evenly matched. Mikoto reflected on what had happened. The problem lay in Natsuki's phantom blow. She had only heard that he excelled in kenjutsu. She hadn't expected him to also know yin release techniques. I lost. You're very strong. Uchiha Mikoto looked at Natsuki. I just got lucky. Natsuki sheathed his kunai and shook his head. If you were my age, you could probably defeat me with ease. A gentle smile appeared on Mikoto's face. Natsuki was young and tremendously talented. He should have been arrogant and untamed like most Uchiha, yet he was remarkably modest. Her impression of him was quite favorable. Senior Mikoto, I have a favor to ask. Natsuki saw an opportunity. I'd like a crow as a summoning beast. I can pay for it. No payment necessary. Mikoto looked mildly surprised, then replied. I can introduce you, but whether you obtain a summon depends on your own ability. As expected, the Uchiha clan had connections with the Crow clan. Natsuki nodded. Thank you, Senior Mikoto. Their brief exchange ended, and they returned to their respective class lineups. Natsuki was immediately surrounded by enthusiastic Class 2A students. After all, he had defeated the 6th-year Uchiha Mikoto. Now, as long as he defeated Nawaki, Natsuki would dominate the Ninja Academy undisputed number 1. Namikaze Minato watched with complicated feelings. Uchiha Mikoto had the Sharingan. Her dynamic vision and reaction speed were very similar to his own. Her loss meant he would most likely lose as well. However, there was always a difference between a first encounter and a rematch. Minato had already analyzed Natsuki's strength, so the outcome remained uncertain. Because ninja battles were information battles. You have awakened the Shippo template. After Natsuki finished dealing with his classmates, a notification appeared before his eyes. He paused, then examined his newly awakened template. Name, Shippo. Era, Final. World, Inuyasha. Rank, C rank. Ability 1, Clone unlocked. Effect, use a leaf to create a clone. When attacked, it produces a sound to confuse the enemy. Ability 2, Foxfire locked. Effect, release a massive ball of fire. Unlock condition, defeat 3 fire release ninjas. Ability 3, Fox Magic locked. Effect, trap the target in an illusion that feels indistinguishable from reality. Unlock condition, defeat 3 genjutsu ninjas. The mascot from Inuyasha. A little fox demon. His role was similar to Chopper's in One Piece. But mascots weren't just mascots. They possessed certain abilities. Shippo's 3 abilities were quite useful in the ninja world, roughly Chunin level. Ability 1, Clone. Although using a leaf for a clone lacked combat utility, it could prove valuable in the wilderness. Ability 2, judging by the description, was similar to Fire Release, Great Fireball Technique, a C-rank fire release. The unlock condition was defeating 3 fire release ninjas. It didn't specify Genin, Chunin, or Jonin. He just needed to defeat 3 ninjas who knew fire release. Overall, moderate difficulty. The most useful was undoubtedly Ability 3 because Fox Magic was a genjutsu. Natsuki had just experienced the power of illusion techniques firsthand. They were genuinely formidable. Even a D-rank genjutsu had been troublesome, let alone high-level ones. And the most powerful genjutsu in the ninja world belonged to the Mangekyo Sharingan. Uchiha Shisui's Kota Amatsukami, for example, could silently alter a person's will and subconscious, essentially functioning like mind control. The unlock condition for Ability 3 was also defeating 3 ninjas. Only this time, it changed from fire release to genjutsu. He could even unlock both abilities simultaneously by finding 3 ninjas who knew both fire release and genjutsu. Natsuki's expression turned subtle. Because in Konoha, most ninjas who knew both fire release and genjutsu were Uchiha. He had already defeated Uchiha Mikato. If he defeated 3 more Uchiha, he would definitely be seen as targeting their clan. Combined with his status as Orochimaru's student and a ninja of the Hokage's faction, the situation would escalate. It would go from him targeting the Uchiha to Sarutobi Hiruzen targeting the Uchiha. Natsuki shook his head. The best approach was asking Orochimaru to help find 3 genin who met the conditions. Time passed. The exchange meet between the 2 classes came to a close. Class 2A suffered a crushing defeat, winning only 3 matches total. However, no one felt discouraged. Because Natsuki had defeated Uchiha Mikato. That single victory was already enough. Meanwhile, news of Natsuki's win spread throughout Konoha at remarkable speed. The reason was simple, neither of their identities was ordinary. Especially since many ninjas and villagers had long harbored grievances toward the Uchiha. To be honest, the Uchiha clan ultimately meeting the fate of annihilation was largely due to their own personalities. The other, smaller portion of the blame fell on Sarutobi Hiruzen. No longer young, he had appeared indecisive when handling Uchiha affairs, ultimately allowing the situation to spiral out of control. After school, Uchiha Mikato returned home. But upon entering the courtyard, she froze. An uninvited guest awaited her, Uchiha Fugaku. He was 17 this year. With Jonin level strength, he had recently succeeded as clan head. Clan head? Mikato greeted him quickly. You lost to Natsuki. Fugaku looked at her directly. Yes. Mikato sighed internally. She already understood the situation. The clan members are very disappointed in you. Many wanted to challenge Natsuki themselves, but I stopped them. Fugaku spoke bluntly. I hope you can reclaim the honor you lost on your own. Chapter 37, Orochimaru's Acknowledgement. In the Hokage's office. Natsuki's rate of improvement is truly impressive. Sarutobi Hiruzen nodded approvingly. The spar between Natsuki and Uchiha Mikato had been a major event at the Ninja Academy. Naturally, he had watched the entire match through his crystal ball. To be honest, when he first heard the matchup, he hadn't favored Natsuki. His reasoning was the same as everyone else's. Uchiha Mikato had 4 more years of training and was a genius of the Uchiha clan. Although Natsuki's teacher was Orochimaru, he still shouldn't have had an advantage. Mikato also had Jonin instructors within her own clan. Was that final yin release technique taught by Orochimaru? Sarutobi Hiruzen picked up his pipe and took a puff. He was certain that Phantom Blow wasn't any known yin release ninjutsu. But Konoha had many similar techniques, such as the Yamanaka clan's secret jutsu. At that moment, his eyebrow rose. He turned toward the window. Why do you always come through the window? Sarutobi Hiruzen asked with mild exasperation. It's faster. Jiraiya walked over, retrieved a scroll, and handed it over. This is the current situation in the Land of Rain. Sarutobi Hiruzen's expression turned serious as he opened the scroll. The contents were extensive, but could be summarized in 2 points. First, the conflict between Uegakure and Tsunagakure in the Land of Rain was gradually escalating. Second, Omegakure was growing restless, stockpiling war supplies, suspected of preparing to join the conflict. Hanzo is indeed bold. Sarutobi Hiruzen spoke gravely after reading. Since the establishment of the one village per country system, the ninja world had been dominated by competition between the 5 great shinobi countries and their 5 great villages. As for smaller nations and villages, their primary role was serving as buffers and battlefields for the great powers. It couldn't be helped. The gap in strength was simply too vast. Hanzo is powerful and ambitious. Now that he sees an opportunity, he definitely won't let it pass. Jiraiya spoke slowly. Especially with his summoning beast, the salamander. That thing is a natural-born war machine. The salamander's greatest threat was its ability to release large-scale poisonous mist. Moreover, its toxin remained unanalyzed to this day. Its appearance on any battlefield was essentially a death sentence for the vast majority of ninjas. For now, this war hasn't affected Konoha. Sarutobi Hiruzen tapped his pipe. But the Land of Rain borders the Land of Fire. Once the scale expands, staying uninvolved will be impossible. Indeed. Jiraiya agreed. Konoha must prepare early. I'll have Koharu and the others handle this. Sarutobi Hiruzen paused. You've worked hard. Take a few days to rest. Understood. Jiraiya nodded. Since you're back, have Minato continue learning from you. Sarutobi Hiruzen added with a hint of humor. You'd better work hard, otherwise, Natsuki will steal all the spotlight. What did he do this time? Jiraiya asked curiously. He just defeated the 6th year Uchiha Mikoto. Sarutobi Hiruzen replied. Jiraiya froze. Although he didn't know Mikoto personally, he understood the Uchiha clan's strength. A sense of urgency instantly surged within him. From childhood to adulthood, he had competed with Orochimaru, but he always lost more than he won. Sarutobi Hiruzen had once called Orochimaru a genius seen only once in decades. Jiraiya had even felt jealous, thinking their teacher only had eyes for Orochimaru. Of course, he had let go of much of that after growing up. But the rivalry between Minato and Natsuki reminded him of his past with Orochimaru. In short, he couldn't let that damn snake be so smug. It's not just defeating Uchiha Mikoto. Sarutobi Hiruzen produced a blue healing potion. If war truly breaks out, this might help us gain an advantage. What is this? Jiraiya asked, confused. A blue healing potion. Invented by Natsuki. Sarutobi Hiruzen briefly explained the circumstances. Jiraiya was dumbfounded. This kid is 7 years old? Meanwhile, at Orochimaru's residence. Teacher, I defeated Uchiha Mikoto. Natsuki got straight to the point. Orochimaru nodded. You didn't waste your efforts this past month. Teacher, I've been studying yin release recently. Today I had a sudden inspiration and created a yin release technique. Natsuki referred to phantom blow. You've already created a shadow technique. Orochimaru looked genuinely surprised. It's not a shadow technique. Natsuki shook his head. Let me demonstrate. Shadow Space and Shadow Assassin far exceeded Phantom Blow in both effect and learning difficulty. Demonstrating those directly would seem too monstrous. Besides, he hadn't even unlocked Shadow Assassin yet. Phantom Blow. Natsuki raised his hand and aimed at Orochimaru. Orochimaru stood in place. He felt a brief moment of dizziness. But he wasn't Uchiha Mikoto. He broke free instantly. Orochimaru nodded slightly. The surprise on his face faded. Phantom Blow was essentially the most basic application of yin release, sending out a mental wave to impact the target. For Natsuki to create such a technique at his age was acceptable. However, it was still enough to impress him. Perhaps Natsuki really could become the second Senju Tobirama. From another perspective, he could also perfectly inherit Tobirama's legacy. From now on, you are my student. Orochimaru spoke. Natsuki's heart jolted. He'd finally become an official disciple? From today on, he could walk sideways in Konoha. Nawaki smiled upon hearing this. It was now confirmed Natsuki would be his teammate. The next afternoon, Natsuki arrived at Konoha's main gate at the agreed time. Uchiha Mikoto was already waiting. Natsuki's eyes narrowed. Today's Mikoto didn't look as calm as yesterday. Something gloomy lingered about her. Could the Uchiha clan be dissatisfied with her loss? That was entirely possible. After all, the entire clan was a bit intense. Senior Mikoto. Natsuki walked up and greeted her. Mikoto nodded. I'll take you to the Crow clan. They live in the Forest of Death. So that's why she asked to meet at the village entrance. The trees surrounding Konoha were all part of the Forest of Death. Natsuki followed her for several minutes until they arrived at the Crow clan's territory. He stopped, looked up, and saw densely packed crows perched on the branches. The scene was rather eerie. Mikoto stepped forward and explained their purpose. To Natsuki's surprise, the Crow clan agreed quite readily. Congratulations, host! You have acquired the Crow, Kurobane. When summoned using the 10 Shadows technique, Kurobane's flight speed is permanently increased by 30%. Natsuki nodded in satisfaction. The greatest use of a crow summon was delivering intelligence. An increase in flight speed was perfect. Natsuki didn't take Kurobane with him, leaving it in the Forest of Death. When needed, he would simply summon it. Natsuki. Uchiha Mikoto, who had hesitated for some time, finally spoke. When are you free? I'd like to spar with you again. Senior Mikoto, our strengths are evenly matched. Either of us could win or lose. A single fight doesn't prove much. Natsuki thought for a moment. How about 3 more matches? Including yesterday's, we might end up tied. 2 wins and 2 losses each. And considering he was Orochimaru's student, the Uchiha clan would likely find that acceptable. As for himself, he didn't care much about winning or losing. He cared about his system and character templates. Moreover, Mikoto knew both Genjutsu and Fire Release perfect for helping him unlock the Shippo template. Mikoto looked up instinctively. Shock was evident in her eyes. Natsuki's implication was obvious. She understood immediately. Not only had he noticed her predicament, he had also devised a solution. For a moment, her feelings were deeply complicated. Chapter 38, Mikoto's Promise. Thank you. Uchiha Mikoto said gratefully. What Natsuki had just suggested was undoubtedly the best solution. In a serious spar, she wasn't certain she could win. If she lost again, Uchiha Fugaku and the clan would be even more disappointed in her. It's nothing. Natsuki smiled. Consider it payment for helping me get a summoning beast. To me, it's not nothing. Mikoto shook her head, her tone serious. I owe you a favor. Seeing her insistence, Natsuki didn't argue further. Life as a normal person within the Uchiha clan was clearly not easy. He changed the subject and got down to business. No time like the present. Natsuki and Mikoto began their spar right there. After 3 rounds, both were drenched in sweat, sitting on the ground to rest. You, in that last match. Before Mikoto could finish, Natsuki interrupted. I didn't hold back. He caught his breath. A win is a win. A loss is a loss. After 4 rounds, just as he'd suggested, they were tied at 2 wins each. Mikoto fell silent. The result was too perfect. It was hard not to suspect Natsuki had manipulated it. But he was actually telling the truth. His biggest problem right now was insufficient chakra. Fighting 3 consecutive rounds had consumed a massive amount. Mikoto was different. Being 4 years older, her chakra reserves considerably exceeded his. Of course, Natsuki had also gained something. Abilities 2 and 3 of his Shippo template had each been unlocked by 1/3. Unfortunately, the requirement was defeating 3 ninjas, not defeating 1 ninja 3 times. If there's ever anything I can help you with in the future, don't hesitate to find me. Mikoto wiped the sweat from her forehead and made a promise. I'll remember that. Natsuki stood. It's getting late. I need to see my teacher. Until next time. Until next time. Mikoto replied immediately. Natsuki turned and walked toward Konoha village. Mikoto watched his retreating figure until he had long disappeared before snapping back to reality. She exhaled slowly and left the Forest of Death. After returning to the Uchiha compound, Mikoto went straight to see Uchiha Fugaku. What is it? Fugaku asked indifferently. Having just become clan head, he was extremely busy with administrative duties. Moreover, Mikoto was only 12. He naturally had no interest in anything beyond clan matters. I went to find Natsuki again today. Mikoto reported. We fought 3 rounds. I won 2, making it 2 wins and 2 losses total, including yesterday's match. I just received news that Natsuki has officially become Orochimaru's student. Fugaku looked at her. You did very well to win 2 out of 3 today. Mikoto felt a jolt of surprise. She hadn't expected Natsuki to have already been formally acknowledged by Orochimaru. Under those circumstances, his willingness to lose 2 matches to her was a genuine sacrifice. He might even face consequences from Orochimaru when he returned. Although you won against Natsuki today, you still need to push yourself. Fugaku spoke gravely. Currently, only he and Mikoto could be called geniuses within the Uchiha clan. As a major ninja clan, the Uchiha needed exceptional talent to uphold their reputation. Additionally, there had always been an invisible rivalry between the Uchiha and the Hyuga. The current Hyuga clan also boasted 2 geniuses, Hyuga Hayashi and Hyuga Hisashi. Yes, clan head. Mikoto nodded. Go train. With the matter concluded, Fugaku dismissed her. Mikoto returned home. She removed her shoes, stepped barefoot onto the carpet, and entered the living room. Leaning back against the sofa, she stared up at the ceiling. After a moment of daze, Natsuki's image surfaced in her mind again. Meanwhile, Natsuki went to see Orochimaru and reported the additional spars with Mikoto. Being able to fight to a draw with Uchiha Mikoto is already excellent. Orochimaru didn't seem bothered. She's simply trained 4 years longer than you. With your talent, you'll surpass her soon enough. But I'd like to spar more with Genjutsu and fire release specialists to build combat experience. Natsuki nodded, then stated his true objective. It's difficult to find such opponents at school. He had mentioned Mikoto specifically to prompt Orochimaru into finding suitable opponents, ones who would help him unlock the Shippo template. If you want to increase your combat experience, let's be thorough about it. Orochimaru considered for a moment. I'll arrange missions involving Genjutsu and fire release ninjas. Missions? That wasn't part of Natsuki's original plan, but thinking about it, this suggestion was even better. It could also progress the Fushiguro Megami template. 2 birds with 1 stone. Thank you, teacher. Natsuki said immediately. Time flew. Friday arrived. Natsuki, what rank do you think this mission will be? Noeki asked as they walked. Most likely B rank. Natsuki replied. I thought so too. Noeki shook his head. I wonder when we'll get to do A rank missions. A rank missions involve Takebutsu Jonin and Jonin. Our strength isn't sufficient yet. Natsuki said casually. Unless we encounter a Takebutsu Jonin who isn't combat focused. Takebutsu Jonin referred to ninjas who excelled in specific areas, essentially chunin with specialized expertise. Ebisu, for example, had become a Takebutsu Jonin because he excelled at instruction. Mitarashi Anko had earned the rank through excellence in intelligence gathering and reconnaissance. The 2 soon arrived at Konoha's main gate. Teacher. Natsuki and Noeki hurried forward to greet him. This mission is A rank. The target is an Uegakuer spy named Yasuda who has infiltrated the capital of the Land of Fire. Orochimaru explained. He's a Genjutsu specialist skilled in intelligence gathering. It's actually A rank. Noeki's face lit up with pleasant surprise. This is to test your ability to handle Genjutsu specialists. Orochimaru glanced at him. Teacher, we definitely won't disappoint you. Noeki promised immediately. After all, you specifically taught us how to dispel Genjutsu. Although Yasuda's strength hasn't reached Jonin level, he's stronger than most Chunin. Orochimaru cautioned them. If you want to defeat him, you must act carefully. Natsuki fell into thought. The Shippo template only required defeating opponents, it didn't specify whether through direct confrontation or assassination. The Fushiguro Megami template, however, explicitly required assassination. He quickly formulated a plan, attempt assassination first, poisoning, perhaps. If Yasuda survived, he and Noeki could finish him off directly. After a brief exchange, the 3 headed toward the capital of the Land of Fire. Chapter 39, The Bet with Noeki. In a secluded corner of the capital of the Land of Fire. Noeki-senpai, let's make a bet. Natsuki suddenly spoke. What kind of bet? Noeke blinked in confusion. Why are you imitating my sister? If we charge indirectly, the two of us might not be able to defeat Yasuda. Natsuki produced a small glass vial. I've prepared poison. What have you prepared? I also prepared poison. Noeke caught on quickly. I'm the senior, so I won't compete with you on that. I can set traps instead. I'll handle the poison. You handle the traps. We'll bet on whose setup works. Natsuki said. Perfect. Noeke grinned confidently. Victory will definitely be mine. We'll see. Natsuki smiled. Yasuda hasn't returned yet. Let's start now. After traveling for a day and a night, they had arrived at the capital of the Land of Fire. Upon arrival, Orochimaru had given them an address and taken a hands-off approach. Natsuki and Noeke located Yasuda's residence based on the information. Yasuda happened to be away. The two exchanged a glance, then vaulted over the wall into the courtyard. Noeke surveyed the area and began setting traps in the living room. Natsuki had originally planned to poison Yasuda's drinking water, but he reconsidered. He worried that Yasuda might trigger Noeke's traps before ever touching the water. After a moment's thought, he switched to a different poison. The previous one required ingestion. This one was airborne, absorbed through respiration. After completing their setups, the two quickly fled the scene. I just realized something. Noeke spoke while they waited. We never decided on the stakes. What do you want? Natsuki asked. Hehe. Noeke didn't hesitate. 10 free meals. That's it. Natsuki smiled and agreed. In reality, even without this bet, Tsunade and Noeke frequently showed up at his izakaya for complimentary food. What about you? Noeke said generously. As long as it's not too outrageous, I can make it happen. A bet should involve equivalent exchange. Natsuki considered for a moment. Help me find a summoning beast. What do you need so many summons for? Noeke asked curiously. Each summoning beast has different abilities. They'll come in handy eventually. Natsuki explained. Is that so? Noeke nodded. All right. If you win, I'll find you one. With his status, locating a summoning beast was trivially simple. Theoretically, he could even mobilize the resources of the entire village. Right at that moment, Noeke's ninja hound Saburo wagged his tail vigorously. Both immediately fell silent. That was the signal Yasuda had returned. They exchanged a glance, nervously awaiting their traps. Yasuda opened the gate and walked into the courtyard. He approached the door. Just as he was about to open it, his gaze sharpened. As a Takubutsu Jonin of Iwagakure and an intelligence operative, he was highly skilled in both assassination and counter-assassination. Before leaving, he had sprinkled fine powder on the ground. If the door had been opened, faint traces would remain. Yasuda studied the marks and formed hand seals without changing expression. His sensory abilities spread outward. The situation inside the living room was entirely within his grasp. Have they already left? Perhaps they left traps behind. Yasuda stepped back and opened the door from a distance. Nothing happened. He walked into the living room, carefully examining his surroundings, and quickly identified the problems. He approached the sofa and pulled out 3 explosive tags hidden underneath. He moved to the window and found another explosive tag beneath a potted plant. Beyond that, he also discovered several kunai concealed in the corners of the room. After a quick sweep, all 4 of Noeke's traps had been dismantled. Chunin-level work. Yasuda shook his head. He wasted no more time and began packing his belongings, preparing to relocate. Although he didn't know who had discovered him, standard protocol for an exposed operative was immediate withdrawal. Something's wrong. Yasuda suddenly felt dizzy and lightheaded. Damn it, poison! Without hesitation, he retrieved a bottle of universal antidote and downed it. The discomfort faded considerably but didn't disappear entirely. He would need a specialized medical ninja or physician. Yasuda abandoned packing immediately. He turned and headed for the door. The moment he stepped outside, he came face to face with a massive water dragon. Water release, water dragon bullet. Yasuda had anticipated an ambush. The instant he saw the technique, his body blurred. He darted left at maximum speed. Boom! The water dragon crashed into his living room. The entire structure shook violently. Yasuda exhaled with relief. He immediately locked onto Nawaki. Where did this kid come from? The thought flashed through his mind, but his hands were already moving. Demonic illusion, hellfire technique. Nawaki, who had been forming hand seals, froze in place. It felt as if his entire body was engulfed in flames. Seeing the genjutsu take hold, Yasuda's lips curved upward. But in the next instant a chill ran through his entire body. He turned instinctively. A flash of blade light. Shock spread across Yasuda's face. He looked down. A sword protruded through his chest. Lion's Song was already devastatingly fast. Stacked with gravity mitigation and reinforcement magecraft, it was nearly untraceable. Moreover, Yasuda was poisoned. His reactions were slightly slower than normal. And most critically, Natsuki had used Nawaki as bait to draw Yasuda's attention, allowing for a lethal strike. His genjutsu really was powerful. Nawaki dispelled the illusion and spoke, his face pale. It had taken him 3 seconds to break free. In a one-on-one fight, 3 seconds would have been enough for him to die 3 times over. We're still young. It's normal that we can't match him yet. Natsuki stepped back and withdrew the sword of the Thunder God. But he still died by our hands in the end. Nawaki quickly recovered his spirits, grinning broadly. 2 Ninja Academy students killing a Takubitsu Jonin. If word got out, probably no one would believe it. Natsuki smiled but said nothing. 2 more Chunin, and he would unlock Shadow Assassin from the Fushiguro Megami template. Yasuda's death had also brought the progress of Shippo template ability 3 Fox Magic to 2/3. All 4 of my traps were dismantled. Looks like you won this bet. Nawaki walked into the wrecked living room, took one look, and confirmed none of his traps had triggered. Even though you lost, you can still have 10 free meals. Natsuki said casually. Even so, I can still accept defeat gracefully. Nawaki clenched his fists. When we get back, I definitely need teacher to give me proper trap setting instruction. I suggest you specialize in explosive tag traps. Natsuki's thoughts stirred. Most traps don't work on powerful ninjas, but explosive tag traps are the exception. An explosive tag was essentially a compressed fire release technique. If a ninja was caught by one, they would be heavily injured if not killed outright. But explosive tag traps weren't common. The reason was simple: explosive tags were expensive. In the original story, even Nara Shikamaru had to budget carefully when purchasing them. But Nawaki wasn't short on money. More importantly, in the original timeline, he had died to an explosive tag trap. If he could specialize in them instead, perhaps he could avoid that fate entirely.
Additionally, if you would like to request novels and access my Google Drive where I have 200+ audiobooks, then you can join my Patreon. Link is also provided in the description.